Full Metal Storm, Battle of the Machines. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 95 Deterrence. Wanderer. As soon as he saw the missiles being launched from the opposite side, Liu Yan immediately pressed a button. The armor on the back of the Wanderer opened, revealing a row of missile bays. Then, guided missiles were launched into the air one by one, and then they drew a gorgeous trajectory like flowers in full bloom, detonating the missiles fired by the Black Hawk. Of course, it was impossible to completely intercept them, so the Wanderer slid out of a serpentine trajectory during its high-speed propulsion, causing many missiles to miss. Fireballs exploded behind it, and the explosion blew up tons of floating soil and grass leaves. When the Black Hawk launched the second wave of missiles, the Wanderer, under the control of Liu Yan, rushed to the left side of the convoy, kept a long enough distance, and fired another shot. Boom. The shield of the Black Hawk was shattered in the second fireball. Gao Yui was really angry. He fired the second wave of missiles expressionlessly. Liu Yan repeated the previous operation. He used guided missiles to detonate some of them, and then used serpentine movement to avoid the rest. If you really can't dodge, just use the thickest part of the armor to withstand it. This time when he went into battle, he surprisingly didn't rush up to fight Gao Yui in close combat, because Liu Yan knew that in his current state, he had no chance of winning in close combat. After killing the monk and donkey Laozi, Liu Yan's energy was almost exhausted. Even if he took a bottle of rejuvenation agent, it would be a drop in the bucket. But he had a plan. At this moment, after enduring the second wave of missiles, Liu Yan believed that the opponent would not launch a third wave of missiles. In addition to the limited bomb bay of the body, which might not accommodate so many missiles, it was also because missiles were very expensive. And after dealing with the previous two waves of missiles, Liu Yan believed that he had left the opponent with the impression that it would be difficult to determine the outcome with the third wave of missiles. So he cut in boldly, but didn't rush in front of the opponent. He kept a certain distance and used the cannon to bombard. There were a total of 10 shells in the body of the Wanderer. Now he used the fourth one. This shell forced the Black Hawk to dodge. After all, the body of the machine no longer had a shield to withstand the explosion. If it did not dodge, the body would be damaged. For most pilots, evading attacks was the most normal thing. But for Gao Yui, this behavior itself was a sign of weakness. For someone like him who had been in a high position for a long time and controlled the power of life and death in a base, showing weakness was never an option for him. But now, he had to choose to evade. He was forced to make such a move. He was much more angry than when he held the shield and let Liu Yan bombard him with provocation. Gao Yui's eyes were already dancing with anger, but he still responded calmly. He raised his rifle to fight back. Although the shooting distance of the rifle was enough for the bullet to reach the position of the Wanderer, such a long distance was enough for him to make evasive actions. Sure enough, Liu Yan easily determined the shooting trajectory of the Black Hawk. Then he turned on the brake. The obstacle die. The bullets of the Black Hawk did not even touch the skin of the Wanderer. The Wanderer wandered around the Black Hawk and the convoy. From time to time, he fired at the convoy with a rifle, maintaining a strong deterrent. Under such harassment, the Wanderer was like an annoying fly, always buzzing around. But Gao Yui was helpless. Gao Yui's patience was worn out bit by bit. Finally, he couldn't help but said in a deep voice through the external speaker function, "If you have the guts, come and fight in close combat. What's the point of harassing like this?" Liu Yan ignored him at all. He circled again, raised his rifle, and blasted an off-road vehicle to pieces. Gao Yui's eyelids kept twitching. He was now worried that Liu Yan would kill Wei Fenghe with one shot. Then all his previous efforts would be wasted. And he couldn't explain to that gentleman. Not only would he not get their support in the future, he might even have to pack up and run away. Gao Yui quickly used the radar to scan the surroundings. After confirming that there were no other mechs nearby, he turned on the convoy's communication channel and said, "Rest on the spot, stay alert, I'll be back soon." Then he looked at the Wanderer. Jiuying said coldly, "You want to lead me away, then I will fulfill your wish. See what tricks you can play." He snorted and issued new instructions continuously. The thrusters behind the Black Hawk ignited and sprayed, spraying out a long flame, pushing the Black Hawk to sprint at high speed. "Here it comes." Jiuying immediately turned the Wanderer around without hesitation. He also turned on the power of the mecha. Immediately, the tail flame of the Wanderer jet flew, pushing the mecha to fly at high speed, raising a 100-meter high dust curtain in the wilderness. The speed was pushed to the extreme, and the body trembled uncontrollably. In the cab, Jiuying was pressed on the seat by the huge pushback force. He maintained the break the barrier eye to obtain a large amount of data to ensure smooth driving, and opened a distance of not too long from the Black Hawk. However, obviously, the power and speed of the Black Hawk are higher than the Wanderer. The distance between the two mechas is gradually narrowing. After chasing for a while, Jiuying closed his eyes slightly. "Want to drag me into the forbidden area? Oh, do you want the teachers in the forbidden area to deal with me? Then your wishful thinking will fail. I believe that your teachers are now exhausted from dealing with the giant beasts attracted by the induction factor. Well, I'll kill you in the forbidden area and blame it on the giant beasts later. Even the disappearance of Xing Feng. You can handle it this way." Jiuying calmly controlled the mecha. The distance between the two sides was quickly reduced. During this process, when passing the Falcon base, driving on the road to the forbidden area, Jiuying suddenly saw a motorcycle on the side of the road coming from the direction of the forbidden area. The rider on the motorcycle found that the mecha was approaching and hurriedly drove off the road. In a quick glance, Jiuying saw that the rider was wearing a dark red long windbreaker and carrying a sniper rifle. Under the road, the motorcycle had stopped. Jiuying looked at the Wanderer whizzing past. Then another black mecha passed by, raising a roar of dust. The masked man looked surprised. "What's going on? It looks like those two mechas are chasing each other." That student just went to the base. In the forbidden area, he robbed two mechas. Could it be that one of the mechas that just passed by was controlled by him? Jiuying's eyes darkened. Then he drove the motorcycle back to the road, chasing the two mechas. At the edge of the number 9 forbidden area, the Wanderer kept moving. Behind it, the Black Hawk, which had closed the distance, fired. Most of the bullets were dodged by the Wanderer. Occasionally, there were hits. It only lifted a few insignificant outer armors. In a blink of an eye, the Wanderer had rushed into the forbidden area. And this time, the fuel in the thruster behind the Black Hawk had run out. The speed of the mecha slowed down. Jiuying simply detached the thruster pendant to avoid increasing the weight of the body and affecting the movement. He remained vigilant, going deep into the forbidden area. He hadn't been here for 2 years. PS. The order of the previous chapter is reversed. Wait for me to adjust it back. Chapter 96. Everywhere. When driving the Wanderer out of the mecha warehouse, Jiuying checked his status. In terms of energy, there were only 24 left. Although it was recovering slowly, it was only enough for a short while. As for the Wanderer, there was no computer prompt. Because the Wanderer was not prepared for battle, the ammunition of the equipment was limited. The cannon only had 10 shells. The rifle had only 1 magazine with a capacity of 30 rounds. There were 36 guided missiles, and 12 could be fired per round. Only the laser chainsaw had no limit on the number of times, and it could be used continuously as long as the mecha had enough energy. With the energy running low, the mecha old-fashioned, and the ammunition limited, Jiuying was not naive enough to think that he could gain an advantage. He could fight against an opponent who had a visualization skill at the elementary level 5, whose mecha was prepared for battle and carried sufficient ammunition in the wilderness. From the beginning, Jiuying thought about pulling Jiuying into the forbidden area. Only by taking advantage of the complex environment of the forbidden area would he have a chance to counterattack. If he was lucky, if he met a teacher, all problems would be solved. However, Jiuying did not hold out much hope in this regard, because he was driving the Wanderer now, not the Academy Mecha White Dragon. When the teachers saw the two base mechas fighting, they would mostly ignore it. Their main task was to rescue students, not to mediate disputes. In addition to teachers, there were also giant beasts in the forbidden area. If he encountered a giant beast, Luo Yan would have a chance to fish in troubled waters. With these calculations in mind, now, he finally entered the forbidden area. Luo Yan did not stop all the way. He kept going deeper and deeper. The environment of the forbidden area was complex and changeable. He had stopped using the pulley device on his feet. While controlling the mecha to run, he did not forget to move. Keep a certain distance behind the Black Hawk that kept firing, and the bullets missed repeatedly. Occasionally, Luo Yan would turn around and fight back when he caught the opponent shooting. The two sides chased and exchanged fire in the forbidden area. Gradually came to the edge of the safe zone. The Wanderer took a big step at this time, and when he stepped on the ground, the fuselage suddenly sank. Luo Yan pulled his legs in time and looked down. It turned out that he was standing on an underground garage. The weight of the mecha was too heavy, and he almost sank. At this time, the Black Hawk came running. Luo Yan looked at the underground garage and rushed forward. When Jiuying came nearby, he suddenly turned around. The cannon lowered the angle and pointed at the feet of the Black Hawk. Fire! With a bang. Flames shot up to the sky. The Black Hawk mecha shook violently, and the ground under its feet broke into pieces. The heavy mecha sank immediately. I don't know how many cars were crushed below. Luo Yan took this opportunity to distance himself and crossed the safe zone. When he came to this place, he looked around. There were those weird black hairs everywhere. Luo Yan activated his barrier breaking eye and found that these black hairs actually contain strands of grey light. They are alive. In the field of vision, there was grey light presented by black hair everywhere. But there was a place where the grey light was relatively scarce. Luo Yan looked. It turned out to be a building. But one side of the building had fallen off, making it concave. There were only a few black hairs there. Luo Yan's eyes lit up. He controlled the mech to fly over. The Wanderer shrunk into the building. Luo Yan shut down most of the mech's functions one after another. He controlled the output of the energy furnace to about 20%. He only maintained some basic functions and the use of the cannon. In this way, the lights on the mech and even the flames emitted by the engine disappeared. The Wanderer emerged into the shadows in the building. It was silent and lurking quietly. In the cab, except for a faint light flashing in front of the command desk, all other lights were turned off. In front of Luo Yan, there was only a shooting screen. The cannon's crossers were wandering outside the building, just waiting for the Black Hawk to come to the door. The Black Hawk had already crawled out of the underground garage. Jiuying had an angry look on his face, but he was still calm. He controlled the mech to go deep into the forbidden area. He found that the Wanderer had disappeared. He snorted. Is that all you can do? Hide and shoot from behind? Black Hawk raised his rifle and fired in a fan-shaped pattern. Bullets flew past buildings and blasted into clumps of strange black hair. Mud and rocks splashed and black hair fluttered. But there was no trace of the Wanderer. In the cab of the Wanderer, Luo Yan had a cold expression, as if he had not seen the bullet that almost grazed the head of the mecha. He was just waiting for Black Hawk to come to him. Suddenly at this moment, in the field of vision, provided by the barrier breaking eye, Luo Yan saw a huge human-shaped grey light coming out from the depths of the forbidden area. He was stunned. The first thought was a giant beast. There are many giant beasts with human-like appearance. Like Teoti, it has a sheep's head and a human body. But if you look closely, the human-shaped grey light seems to be woven out of densely packed threads. Weird hair? Luo Yan thought of it first. It was those strange black hairs that were everywhere and seemed to be alive. At this moment, the human-shaped grey light had come behind several buildings. Jiuying, who was in the Black Hawk mecha, noticed the movement behind the building. He snorted and reached out to click on the screen next to him. The next moment, the armor on the chest of the Black Hawk opened, and flame snakes spewed out from the 6-link missile launch bay. The sharp whistle tore through the tranquility of the forbidden area. Missiles dragged flame tails, leaving brilliant tracks in the darkness, flew to several buildings, and hit a huge black shadow. Boom boom boom. Missiles exploded one after another, and one fireball after another rushed to bloom and expand. The violent explosion caused several buildings to fall apart. At the same time, a mecha appeared in the flames. But that mecha was not the Wanderer. The Wanderer, hiding in the hollow building on the other side, was outlined by the flames released by the missiles. But at this time, Jiuying's attention has been attracted by the mecha behind the building. He laughed and used his rifle to suppress fire. The flames and dust there became more intense. In the cab of the Wanderer, Jiuying frowned. How could there be a mecha in the forbidden area? Suddenly, his pupils shrank slightly. Wang Lei, Group B, Year 2. Wasn't his mecha dragged into the depths of the forbidden area by Gifa? Could it be this one now? At this time, Jiuying had used up his magazine and was about to replace it. Suddenly, a black shadow crashed out from the rising flames and thick smoke in the distance. It was a mecha, but this mecha has black hair wrapped around many parts of its body. Those strange black hairs broke and burned in the repeated bombings just now, exposing part of the body. From those exposed parts, you can see there are black hairs wriggling in the gaps or cracks of the mecha, as if they have become the nerves and blood vessels of the mecha. They are everywhere. Chapter 97, Strange Mecha. The mecha that rushed out of the thick smoke and the exposed outer armor style made Jiuying certain of one thing. It was indeed the mecha driven by Wang Lei. The outer armor of this mecha was damaged in many places. The armor fell off, exposing various devices and parts inside. In those devices and parts, Jiuying also saw something seemed to be wriggling. It seemed to be the organs and blood vessels of a living creature. When he wanted to look more carefully, it was covered by the black weird hair that was wriggling everywhere in the mecha. The mecha driven by Wang Lei was now like a highly rotten corpse. The flesh and blood fell off, exposing the organs inside. When Jiuying looked at the head of the mecha, his body was even more shocked. The head of the mecha was severely damaged, exposing the cab inside. The cab was filled with weird hair. Those black hairs flooded the walls and entangled the command console. Even the driver's seat was covered with black hair. On that seat, Jiuying saw a person. His lower body was entangled in black hair and only his upper body was exposed. The helmet was gone. There was no trace of blood on the pale face. Black hair came out of his eyes and ears. It was as if his body was already filled with hair. But he seemed to be alive. He was still controlling the mecha to rush towards Jiuying. Wang Lei. That was Wang Lei. But in this state, Jiuying didn't think he could still survive. And even for Jiuying, who was used to seeing life and death, Wang Lei's current state still made his back cold. At this time, he saw Wang Lei's lips opening and closing. He seemed to be saying something. If Jiuying was in the mecha cockpit now, he would hear Wang Lei repeating a few words. I want to be a mecha master. I want to work hard to make money. I want to let my family live a good life. On the other side, in the cockpit of the Black Hawk, seeing the mecha entangled with strange black hair, Jiuying forgot to change the magazine for a moment. What the hell is that? But at this time, the mecha driven by Wang Lei had already rushed up. Raise the rifle. Shoot. Lines of fire broke through the air and hit the body of the Black Hawk, causing a burst of sparks. Jiuying reacted and rolled over, hiding behind a building, and taking the opportunity to change the magazine. He was about to fight back. The building where the mecha was parked. Suddenly, the windows and walls on both sides suddenly shattered, and streams of black hair rushed out like a waterfall. Then it strangled the head and hands of the Black Hawk. At the same time, the body entangled with black hair bypassed the building, and the rifle almost stabbed the head of the Black Hawk. The muzzle spewed out flames, and fired bullets at the head of the mecha. Jiuying hurriedly used the shoulder gun, pointing at the black-haired mecha, and fired 3 bursts. Bang bang bang. The fireballs connected to the head and chest of the black-haired mecha exploded. The black-haired mecha was blown apart by the impact. The shoulder gun of the Black Hawk mecha turned, and a shot blew off the strange hair wrapped around the right hand. Then the rifle in the right hand fired a burst of shots. The strange hair entangled with other parts was broken. Black Hawk immediately rolled away from the building. But the mecha entangled by the strange hair rushed up again. Black Hawk raised his rifle and cooperated with the shoulder gun. Continuous attack. The strange hair mecha rushed up under the gunfire and bullets and pressed the rifle on the chest of Black Hawk and shot. Bang 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 bang. The fierce firepower made the Black Hawk mecha vibrate continuously. This crazy fighting style made Jiuying's scalp numb. He tried to pull away, but the other party grabbed his mecha with one hand. And the black hair on the strange mecha also entangled with Black Hawk, making it difficult for Jiuying to escape. Hiding in the hollow building, Luo Yan looked at this scene. He was silent for a long time. This was beyond his expectations. He didn't expect Wang Lei's mecha would appear. Moreover, it appeared in this form. If he hadn't hidden, he would probably be entangled by the strange mecha now. Inadvertently, Luo Yan glanced at the place where Wang Lei had just rushed out. The smoke there had mostly dissipated. It could be seen that the original buildings had become ruins. Between those buildings, Luo Yan suddenly saw something. A hill like black crystal. There was a fluctuating breath in it, and from time to time it condensed into the face of a ferocious beast. Jiuying. There was Jiuying between those buildings. Wang Lei's mecha appeared there just now. Was it attracted by Jiuying? Boom. The huge noise drew Luo Yan's attention to the two mechs that had started the battle again. It turned out that Jiuying recovered, burst out his energy, and used some kind of combat skills. Not only did it shatter the black hair entangled with the body, but it also made Wang Lei's mecha retreat again and again, and a concave fist mark appeared on the chest of the mecha. The engine inside had been completely shattered. Normally, if the main engine is broken, even if there is an auxiliary engine, the mecha usually loses its combat effectiveness. But after Wang Lei's mecha retreated a few steps, it pounced again. It seems that the engine of the mecha is no longer the key to the action. The shoulder gun of the Black Hawk fired again, trying to intercept the enemy. Wang Lei's mecha did not stop, but the black hair entangled on the body rushed out, weaving a black curtain in front of the mecha. The gunfire of the shoulder gun exploded on the black curtain, blowing off the black hair. But the body behind was not damaged at all. At this time, Wang Lei's mecha waved his right arm, and her chain blade like the white dragon popped out from the wrist armor. At the same time, the black hair on the body was entangled with the chain blade, increasing its length, and the black hair was tightened. Densely arranged, it actually gave off a metallic luster. Wang Lei's mecha stabbed with a sword. With the enhancement of the black hair, the black blade, which was more than 40 meters long, broke through the air and stabbed into the left shoulder of the Black Hawk. Another pick. One arm of the Black Hawk was broken at the shoulder. The mecha arm weighing hundreds of tons fell to the ground with a bang, causing a dent in the ground and spreading cracks. Wang Lei's mecha stuck to it. The long sword slashed continuously. The Black Hawk with only one arm left retreated again and again. In the cockpit, Jiuying finally panicked. While controlling the mecha, he shouted, "I won't die here. I won't die here." He roared, not caring about the close distance, and fired the last wave of missiles. The chest armor unfolded, the missile compartment was exposed, and flames shot up into the sky. Several missiles flew into the air, then whizzed down, and bombarded Wang Lei's mecha. The strange mecha suddenly grew black hair, forming things like tentacles. Those things danced wildly in the air, and the missiles were constantly detonated, only to explode the large clumps of black hair in vain. Wang Lei's mecha took the opportunity to pounce on the Black Hawk. The black long sword was raised high. Then it slashed down like black electricity. It chopped directly into the cockpit. It chopped Jiuying into pieces. All the way down. The energy furnace, engine, circuit, various parts and structures were destroyed. Finally, it flashed out from between the legs of the mecha. Boom. The mecha exploded. As the debris flew everywhere, some other things flew out. They were grey bones, huge internal organs, and liquids that were not sure whether they were oil or blood. These things made the battlefield bloody and messy. It also shocked Luo Yan. Why would there be bones and organs of living things in the mecha? Chapter 98, Regaining the Fragments. While Luo Yan was still shocked by the biological organs in those mechas, on that battlefield, the strange black hair around him suddenly moved violently. As if attracted by something, it suddenly became active, and then grew rapidly. Hissing. A large amount of black hair was flying all over the sky, one after another, shooting at the biological organs that had fallen out of the Black Hawk mecha before. They wrapped around the bones, drilled into the internal organs, and spread into the blood. Then the black hair became thicker, and repeated the movement of expansion and contraction. It looked like it was sucking something. Luo Yan's pupils dilated slightly. He forgot to breathe. He just stared at this scene in the cab of the Wanderer. After a while, the black hair seemed to be full and satisfied and began to retreat back to their previous positions. The bones scattered on the ground had shrunk a circle, the internal organs were completely shriveled, and the blood was almost sucked out. Next, Wang Lei's mecha, which was covered with black hair, was now bent over, with his hands almost hanging to the ground. Step by step, he slowly left the place where the battle had just taken place, and slowly walked into the depths of the forbidden area. Only then did this area finally return to peace. Luo Yan let out a long breath. The mecha controlled by the strange hair, the biological organs bursting out of the body, and the black hair sucking the biological organs. This was the weirdness that Luo Yan had never seen before. No wonder. These areas occupied by the overlord level beasts are all called forbidden areas. These places are really filled with too many events that cannot be explained by common sense and are beyond human normal cognition. It is too normal to be designated as a restricted area for life. After a while, Luo Yan refocused his attention on the Jiuying. Bring Jiuying back. This is obviously not feasible. Jiuying is too large. Even if the mecha can carry it, what if it is attacked on the way? Jiuying will naturally attract beasts. Moreover, Wang Lei's mecha should still be nearby. It will appear again at the slightest movement. Luo Yan thought about it and decided to use his advantage of being a natural resonator to make a try. His plan was to use a cannon to smash Jiuying directly. If primordial stone fragments appeared in Jiuying, he would leave the mecha and use remote sensing to control the mecha to deal with the enemies that appeared. There was no need to destroy the enemy. He only needed to delay until he recovered the primordial stone fragments. When he wanted to do this, suddenly, 2 mechs and 3 giant beasts chased by. It was unknown which 2 teachers in the school were operating the mechs. Although there was one more giant beast than them, the 2 mechs kept their distance while weakening it with guns and cannons. They seemed to be very comfortable. The driving skills and the movements of the mechs were much smoother than those of the students. At this time, Wang Lei's strange mecha appeared again. It really didn't go far. It was hiding nearby. Using its hands and feet, it approached the battlefield not far away like a monster. Luo Yan narrowed his eyes slightly. The teachers were concentrating on dealing with the giant beasts. They didn't seem to notice this ghost in the dark night. Luo Yan immediately locked the strange mecha with the cannon. He was ready to fire at it and remind the teachers. At this moment, the strange mecha climbed up to Jiuying and took a diving posture. Luo Yan's pupils shrank slightly. This was an excellent opportunity. He wanted to bomb the strange mecha and Jiuying together. With the help of the computer, the crushes of the cannon had already included the strange mecha and Jiuying. Luo Yan pressed the somatosensory controller. Cannon. 3 shots. Bang bang bang. The dull sound of the cannon sounded. Almost at the same time, Wang Lei's mecha, which had been controlled by Giffer, and Jiuying beside him were suddenly submerged by 3 consecutive fireballs. This sudden explosion also attracted the attention of the other 2 mechs not far away. The mechs were obviously looking over here. Jiuying fragments were seen flying everywhere, and a black shadow rolled out in the blazing flames. It was Wang Lei's mecha, whose outer armor had fallen off, and was covered with strange black hair, like a walking corpse. This mecha with a strange appearance immediately attracted the attention of the other 2 mechs. They immediately transferred part of their firepower to the strange mecha. Most of the black hair on the back of the strange mecha was broken, exposing the severely damaged fuselage. The mecha looked as if it was about to fall apart, but it was forcibly gathered together by the black hair on the surface and inside the body. At this time, it was attacked by fierce artillery fire again, and it used its hands and feet like a beast, making all kinds of incredible movements on the ground. On the other side, in the hollow building, the Wanderer had already fully powered up and rushed out. Just when the Jiuying exploded just now, Luo Yan caught a faint, but pure white light flying out of the Jiuying, falling into the safe zone like a meteor. Luo Yan immediately restarted the mecha and pushed the function to its peak. He ran wildly to where the white light fell. When he came nearby, Luo Yan maintained empathy with the mecha. While getting up from his seat and rushing out of the cab, he stood on a high place and activated the barrier-breaking eye. The world in his eyes immediately turned into a simple drawing. Ruins, trees, grass, cars, everything, no longer posed an obstacle. All were penetrated by Luo Yan's sight. Soon, he found a little hazy white light on the second floor of a building. Luo Yan made a prompt decision and took action. A moment later, he came to a room. The outer wall of the house had already fallen off, revealing a huge gap. In the bedroom of this house, next to a full-length mirror with cracks all over it, and facing the gap, Luo Yan saw a crystal-like, diamond-shaped object. Where it was, the weeds and wildflowers were showing an amazing vitality, growing at a speed visible to the naked eye. In a few seconds, the bedroom was already full of flowers and green grass. Luo Yan immediately took a step forward and came to the full-length mirror that was mostly submerged in green grass and wildflowers. He reached out and picked up the primordial stone fragment among the flowers and plants. Just like last time, Luo Yan's hand just touched the primordial stone fragment, and this crystal-like thing turned into white light from the inside out. Then it scattered into thousands of threads and drilled into Luo Yan's body. Luo Yan only felt a strong vitality surging and rising in his body. His internal injuries, external injuries, and even the consumed physical energy, mental energy, and energy, his entire state, all of a sudden returned to the peak. This time, Luo Yan could clearly feel the changes brought about by the primordial stone fragment. At this moment, in the full-length mirror in front of Luo Yan, which was full of cracks, a light suddenly flashed. A feeling of extreme danger immediately enveloped his whole body. Luo Yan rolled sideways in response. A huge force erupted, causing him to scream and leave the vicinity of the full-length mirror. He just bounced up and saw a flash of red light. The full-length mirror shattered in an instant. Where the red light passed, countless flowers and plants were cut in half. Finally, a gap the size of a human head was blown out in the wall next to the bedroom door. It is not difficult to imagine. If Luo Yan had not dodged in time, now, he was probably already shattered to pieces. Just as he hit the wall on the other side, the sound of a sniper rifle was heard from far outside the building. Chapter 99. Be careful. Seeing the full body mirror shattered and huge bullet holes appearing on the wall, the first thought that flashed through Luo Yan's mind was, enemy. But then he became confused. The other party was obviously using sniper equipment. This could not be done by a behemoth. It could only be done by humans. If it was a human, who else would want to kill him except the Black Hawk Company? If it was the Black Hawk Company, now that their boss is dead, who would want to kill him? Confused as he was, Luo Yan's reaction was not slow at all. He still maintained empathy with the mecha. He immediately used the perspective of the mecha to look around. He saw a figure flashing in the window of a building in the distant block. After that person fired a shot, he immediately moved his position and moved to another direction. Then he set up a sniper rifle and waited for him to appear. Luo Yan controlled the mecha indifferently. He asked the wanderer to adjust the angle of the cannon and point it at the sniper. Then he whistled all the remaining shells. Bang bang. When he heard the strong sound of artillery, Jiuying secretly cried out that it was not good. That's right. It was he who sniped Luo Yan just now. He saw the wanderer and the Black Hawk chasing each other on the road and heading straight to the forest. He followed them. Jiuying was very patient. Although he suspected that Luo Yan was in the wanderer, he did not take action. It was not until Luo Yan was attracted by the primordial stone fragment and emerged from the wanderer that Jiuying began to act. And the moment Luo Yan picked up the primordial stone fragment, Jiuying attacked decisively. He thought that Luo Yan's condition had deteriorated seriously and he was distracted by something. It was a perfect opportunity. But he did not expect that Luo Yan could burst out with such power. Thus, he saved his life. After the failure, Jiuying was not panicked or frustrated. He relied on his experience and quickly changed his position. He had planned to fight Luo Yan to the end. He wanted to kill Luo Yan with the advantage of distance. But he never thought that Luo Yan had come out of the mecha. The wanderer actually opened fire. There was no time for him to think. How did Luo Yan do all this? Jiuying acted decisively and jumped out of the window of the building. As soon as he came out, the building had been hit by a shell. 2 shells pierced the building. The building shook violently and a large amount of gravel and sand sprayed out from behind the building. The structure of the building was destroyed. Huge cracks spread rapidly. Before Jiuying could land on the ground, the building was shattered. A large amount of rubble fell like raindrops. Thick dust and smoke were raised on the ground. While shelling the sniper on the opposite side, Luo Yan took the opportunity to jump out of the gap in the building. The wanderer reached out and caught him. Luo Yan did not waste time. He did not enter the cab. He controlled the wanderer to run over. The running of the mecha made the road shake continuously. The rubble kept rolling down from the ruins of the building over there. After one of the rubble rolled down, Jiuying climbed out with difficulty. His sniper rifle tyrant was miraculously preserved, but Jiuying's luck was not so good. One of the man's hands was deformed and smashed into a bloody mess by the rubble. Both legs were also stuck by the rubble, and one of the legs had 2 steel bars stuck in it. Although he didn't die, he lost half his life. At this moment, the light fell and shone on his body. Then a cold voice above his head said, "Who are you?" Jiuying barely raised his head. He saw that there seemed to be a person standing in the hand of the mecha. It was Luo Yan. Luo Yan looked at the man wearing a mask and a dark red long windbreaker in the ruins. He remembered that he had seen this man on the way to the forbidden area. He said, "Are you from Black Hawk Company?" At this time, the man said something, but the voice was too soft. It was not clear. Luo Yan said, "What did you say?" Then he saw the man waved his hand. It seemed that he wanted to get closer. Luo Yan's mind moved. The laser chainsaw of the wanderer started. Seeing the blue light around the chainsaw, Jiuying's eyes in the mask suddenly flashed a trace of panic. He originally planned to trick Luo Yan over. At close range, he used the poisoned flying knife hidden in his hand to kill it. But at this time, the wanderer extended his left arm. The laser chainsaw drew a trace of blue light and lightly passed over Jiuying's back. Jiuying felt as if his head and back were opened, and then a piece of magma was poured into it. He lost consciousness instantly. Died tragically on the spot. Seeing Jiuying's biological grey light disappear, Luo Yan was relieved. He didn't care whether Jiuying was a member of the Black Hawk Company. Since the other party was unwilling to disclose it, Luo Yan would just send him off. He would not be stupid enough to risk being attacked and approach someone who wanted to snipe him. His experience on the surface made him understand the truth. If you want to live longer, be careful in everything. When he came to Jiuying, Luo Yan first picked up the modified sniper rifle tyrant. He felt heavy in his hand. He gestured and liked it very much. Even though his shooting skills were not very good, Luo Yan still put it away and regarded it as his own trophy. Then he pried open Jiuying's hand holding the poison blade and saw the dark blue blade. Luo Yan carefully took it out and stabbed it into Jiuying's arm. Finally, he searched Jiuying's body. He found some trivial items. There was a metal box with no gaps in it. He didn't know what it was. There was also a photo. In the photo was a young man with black hair and red eyes. Luo Yan narrowed his eyes slightly. Of course he recognized it. It was himself. Originally, he thought Jiuying was from the Black Hawk Company. Now it seems not. Obviously, Jiuying is a killer. Wu family? Or Luo family? Or other people who want to bring down Captain D? Luo Yan shook his head. The range is too wide. It's hard to confirm. Suddenly he regretted it. He shouldn't have killed Jiuying so easily just now. Theoretically, if this man's limbs are cut off, there will be no threat to himself. Then he can force some questions. I'm still too young. Luo Yan sighed and decided to learn from his lesson. Then he found another card. Jiuying bar. There was also a line of address on the back of the card. The bar is located in Guangling City. Luo Yan looked at Jiuying. Finally, he took the mask off the man's face and took it away along with the sniper rifle. In the wilderness, in the Black Hawk Company convoy, in an armored vehicle, when Feng had coughed violently, he woke up. He felt unbearable pain all over his body, and his hands and feet were weak. It was as if he had been given drugs. When Feng silently circulated his yuanli, he felt that the yuanli was running sluggishly. After a few breaths of circulation, when Feng gave up. The current state was obviously intentional by the Black Hawk Company. It was to make him unable to resist on the way. When Feng sighed in his heart. He didn't expect that a practical test would have such a storm. But he was very open-minded and didn't take it to heart. Death. He had experienced it before. When he pushed the empathy connection to 300%, he had already walked around the gates of hell. That time was extremely dangerous. He still survived. He didn't believe that this little storm would cost him his life. At this moment, he heard a cry outside. Gunshots were heard. Explosions. Chapter 100 A Bright Future. The commotion outside subsided after a while. But in the armored vehicle, the soldiers responsible for escorting Wei Fenghe were very nervous. At this time, footsteps were heard outside the car door, and then a voice shouted, "I'm Liu Mazi, don't shoot anyone inside. I'm going to open the car door now. Don't shoot." The car door opened. The lights outside were fierce. The man who opened the car door was blurred. He then shouted, "Put down the gun quickly, carry Teacher Wei out, be careful not to bump into Teacher Wei." The soldiers looked at each other, at a loss. Liu Mazi's voice rose 8 octaves. "Are you deaf? I told you to let him go. Let him go quickly." The soldiers reacted. Someone took the wheelchair and someone picked up Wei Fenghe. They left the armored vehicle and came outside. They saw an industrial-style mecha was standing behind Liu Mazi. The rifle was enough to blow Liu Mazi into a pulp, and the muzzle was pointed down. No wonder the man was afraid. When Wei Fenghe sat in the wheelchair, he raised his head with difficulty and used his hands to block the light to look at the mecha. The mecha's external speaker sounded, "You can go." Liu Mazi was relieved, waved his hand, and left quickly with the soldiers. The light of the mecha was tilted to the other side, and the industrial-style body half knelt on the ground. The driver inside seemed to be planning to get off. Wei Fenghe had time to look around at this time. He saw that the convoy was beaten to pieces, the road was bumpy, and the bodies were either lying on the ground or lying on the windows. Obviously, they had just experienced a fierce battle. At this time, the hatch of the mecha's cab opened. Wei Fenghe saw a familiar figure coming out. A smile appeared on his face. Asterisk 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 it was dawn. A convoy, escorted by several mechs. It drove from the direction of the forbidden area. After a night of hard work, the teachers finally gathered the students who were scattered by the giant beasts and escorted them back to the Falcon base. After returning to the base, several mechs quickly controlled the Falcon base. On their way back, Ziguang Gaio and other instructors had already received news from Wei Fenghe. They knew what Black Hawk Company had done last night. They also knew that Luo Yan had saved Wei Fenghe. Therefore, the first thing they did when they returned to the base was to control the base and not let the residents of the base go out so that they could conduct the next investigation. As for Black Hawk Company, they had already been controlled by Luo Yan. Under the gun of the Wanderer, even the toughest people had to surrender. After returning to the base, the instructors entered Black Hawk Company aggressively, called the remaining supervisors, and began to interrogate them. Luo Yan was happy to have the instructors take over. He had been busy all night and had no time to rest. Now he seized the opportunity and slept peacefully. When he woke up, it was already afternoon. As soon as he walked out of the tent, he saw the students in the newly reorganized camp discussing something in groups of 3 or 2. When they saw Luo Yan walking out of the tent, both the sophomores and the first year students gave Luo Yan a thumbs up. "Old Luo." Zheng Shan's voice rang out. Luo Yan just turned around. He was hugged by the burly young man. Zheng Shan patted Luo Yan's back hard. He said excitedly, "We all heard it. You killed 2 Black Hawk Company executives. And from them, I learned about Director Wei. You are so awesome. Not only did you steal their mecha, but you also killed Gao Yui and saved Director Wei. You are my idol now." After hearing Zheng Shan's words, Luo Yan realized that his story had spread. But he didn't like it. He didn't like being noticed. He preferred to be unknown and not valued. But it seems that now things have gone against his wishes. Luo Yan could only say, "Gao Yui was not killed by me. I should have told Director Wei. Gao Yui was killed by Wang Lei's mecha." Zheng Shan nodded. "I know. But if you hadn't brought Gao Yui into the forbidden area, how could Wang Lei's mecha have the opportunity to kill him? So Gao Yui died indirectly in your hands." "This is true," Zheng Shan continued, "but I didn't expect that senior Wang Lei's mecha would be controlled by Gifa. This is the first time the teachers have heard of this kind of thing. They decided to report this to the giant beast strategic mansion. As for the discoverer, they said they would write your name. Luo Yan frowned. This approach. He also didn't like it. Beside, Li Boheng pushed his glasses and said, this is a good thing. Luo Yan couldn't help but look at him. Li Boheng smiled and said, the resources of each underground city, especially those related to mechs, and the allocation of giant beast cores, are largely allocated by the giant beast strategic mansion. If your name appears in the giant beast strategic mansion, it will receive more attention. Maybe in the future, you can get more resources. This is a good thing that many people dream of. Sometimes, you can't be too low-key. You will miss a lot of opportunities that way. Luo Yan narrowed his eyes slightly, thinking that what Li Boheng said was not unreasonable. At this time, someone shouted, excuse me, please. Don't stand there like wooden sticks. Didn't you see our boss is here? Be smart. Zheng Shan and Li Boheng were suddenly pushed aside. It turned out to be Yang Lix's two followers. After they pushed Zheng Shan and the other two away, Yang Lixi came up with a smile on his face. He grabbed Luo Yan's hand and shouted, idol. I'm glad to see that you're okay. Luo Yan looked at him holding his hand, and habitually, his eyes passed over Yang Lix's fair neck. Then he remembered that he had earned millions of work points from this guy. So his eyes left his neck and fell on Yang Lix's face, and he pulled his hand out and wiped it on his clothes. Yang Lixe seemed not to notice Luo Yan's disgust and smiled and lowered his voice and said, Student Luo, you are so impressive this time. Based on my experience, if there are no accidents, you will get a special driver's license soon. Luo Yan was at a loss. Special driver's license? Yes. Yang Lixe took the opportunity to close the distance and whispered in Luo Yan's ear, this is a certificate issued to students who have the ability to drive mechs, but have not graduated yet. Once you get a special driver's license, you can immediately enjoy the third level treatment, the kind without discounts. And, you can participate in some simple tasks of the exploration core. Like the group of third year students Iheo, they got the special driver's license. However, you are probably the only first year student to get this certificate. He patted Luo Yan's arm. Now, you are really my idol. In addition, getting this certificate, it also means that you can keep the mecha. Then, let me sponsor you. How about it? Chapter 101 The Darkness Before Dawn. Facing Yang Lix's sponsorship, Luo Yan was silent for a moment and said with his original intention, I don't want to be told what to do. Yang Lix's fighting skills and mystical arts were ordinary, but his talking skills were at the master level. He was not unhappy at the moment and immediately changed his tone. I think so. It's okay. Let's talk about something else. I'll continue. Before he could say anything, someone came over and coughed dryly. It was Wei Fenghua. Yang Lixi observed Wei Fenghua's expression and immediately knew that Wei Fenghua had something to say to Luo Yan. So he said, I remembered that there is something else. Student Luo, let's talk when we return to the academy. Teacher Wei, okay. Goodbye, Teacher Wei. After saying that, he left with a smile. Wei Fenghua coughed twice, smiled and said, Yang Zhen's son is a wonderful person. He is a dandy boy who seems to be only good at eating and waiting for death. In fact, he is quite smart. He knows how to advance and retreat, and he is willing to put down his pride. Occasionally he has some unexpected ideas. If you can't become a mecha commander in the future, you can also develop in the direction of a staff officer. If you manage well, you may even be able to become a commander. Luo Yan was a little surprised. He didn't expect that Yang Lixi had a good reputation among Wei Fenghua. Thinking about it carefully, it was true. The first time he met him, it was not pleasant. Luo Yan was prepared to be an enemy of Yang Lixi. He didn't expect that the relationship would develop into this. They were not friends, nor enemies. He also earned millions of work points in his pocket. He was indeed a wonderful person. The kind that he could fleece. Thinking of this, with Luo Yan's cold heart, he couldn't help but raise the corners of his mouth. On the other side, Yang Lixi sneezed several times in succession. He shrank his neck. Who is saying bad things about me behind my back? At this time, his cell phone rang. He received a text message. There were 5.7 million work points added to his personal account. The person who transferred the money was Liu Ruohan. Ah, the goddess returned my money. She gave me an extra 200,000. You are looking down on me. It's just a few million. Student Liu is too polite. No, I have to talk to her. Asterisk 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 inside the tent. Weni Fenghua took out a box, poured out 2 capsules from it, and swallowed them with water. Then he said, both Wang Lei's mecha and body have been recovered. We were all thanks to your reminder with those few shots. Otherwise, Teacher Z and the others might have been ambushed. Luo Yan thought of the strangeness of last night and frowned slightly, saying, can the mecha be controlled? Weni Fenghua coughed twice and said, we have preliminarily checked Wang's mecha, and found that the joints of the mecha have been shattered. So, it should be, that the strange hairs penetrated deep into the body of the mecha, and played the role of nerves or muscles, so it was able to control the mecha. Wang's body was also dissected. His body was empty. It was completely filled with strange hairs. Luo Yan thought of something and said, I seemed to see Wang Lei talking at the time. Weni Fenghua's eyes condensed and said, only his brain remained intact. There are some strange hairs in his brain, connected to his cerebral cortex. We believe that those strange hairs stimulated Wang's brain with bioelectricity, so he was able to do some simple actions, like he was in his lifetime, such as talking. Luo Yan thought for a while and said, in that case, was he dead or alive at the time? Weni Fenghua sighed and said, it's hard to define. The two were silent for a moment. Weni Fenghua said, by the way, we have already conducted a preliminary investigation of Black Hawk. Unfortunately, Gao Rui is very careful. When he left last night, he destroyed the relevant evidence. Besides, there are only a few executives left in Black Hawk. They know very little about this matter. Luo Yan glanced at him. Weni Fenghua seemed to understand his thoughts, and nodded and said, next, this matter will be reported to the responsible department. We will return to the academy tomorrow. Luo Yan was silent, as if he was thinking about something, and after a while he said, last night, after Wang Lei's mecha blew up the opponent, something appeared in Gao Rui's mecha. Weni Fenghua closed his eyes slightly, raised his head, and looked at his student. Luo Yan did not avoid the gaze of his teacher, and said in a deep voice, it is the organs of living things. And bones. Teacher, why are there such things in mechas? Weni Fenghua did not answer directly. Instead, he said, you didn't mention this last night. Luo Yan nodded. Weni Fenghua asked again, have you mentioned this to other people? Luo Yan shook his head. Weni Fenghua then said, this matter is very complicated to talk about. Besides, it's not the time for you to understand the truth. When you have enough authority, you will naturally understand. What you need to do now, just forget about it for the time being. Don't tell anyone else. Can you do it? Luo Yan said simply, yes. Okay. Weni Fenghua patted his shoulder. Next, relax well. People can't always be tense. Then, he left. Luo Yan did not move. His eyes were still on the entrance of the tent. His eyes became more and more solemn. Weni Fenghua did not deny what he saw. He just asked him to keep it secret. So, there is indeed biological tissue in the body of the mecha. Footsteps sounded. Zheng Shan and Li Boheng came. Luo Yan lowered his head slightly, to hide the shock in his eyes. On the second day, the college convoy drove out of the Falcon base, and returned to Guangling City. Because of the relationship with the Black Hawk Company, this actual combat test ended early. However, during the test, many students performed well. Not to mention Luo Yan, who was the most popular, but Li Zi's bold killing, and Lin Cheng's lone enemy left a deep impression on many teachers. On the way back, the teachers had a heated discussion about the students' performance. These discussions will be related to the students' future. Just after the college staff left, in the Falcon base, Black Hawk Company was quickly taken over by the remaining supervisors. Moreover, none of the supervisors were convinced by each other. So in order to decide who would sit in the top position, several supervisors fought each other, making the base uneasy that day. It was not until the evening that the forces of the parties stopped fighting and temporarily ceased fighting. In the morning of the next day, when many residents of the base were still asleep, suddenly, a sharp whistling sound came from outside the base. This sound, like nails scratching on a blackboard, shattered the tranquility of the morning. Several black spots whistled at a very fast speed, breaking through the dim sky and landing in several corners of the Falcon base. In an instant, a shocking explosion occurred in the base. Several huge fireballs flew into the sky. Shock waves vibrated in a staggered manner. The headquarters building of Black Hawk Company was shattered in the explosion like a castle made of sand. As for the messy residential area and the people in the base, they were also torn to pieces in the flames and shock waves, just like fragile paper. Chapter 102, Rogue Methods. Even though the distance was more than 1 kilometer, the hot and scorched smell coming from the Falcon base could still be smelled here. After the bombing of several tactical missiles just now, the Falcon base was immediately paralyzed. But the attackers did not intend to stop there. Several aircrafts of the same standard, only more than 10 meters high, with the upper body in the shape of a mecha, and the lower body in the shape of a vehicle, approached the Falcon base, while using heavy artillery to cover the bombing. This caused the base, which was already burning with flames, to rise up with balls of fire. From time to time, parts of the tanks and broken human bodies could be seen flying in the flames and explosions. The earth was shaking. The blood had no time to spread and had already evaporated in the flames. When those strange machines that were half mecha and half vehicle entered the base was full of corpses. Even so, those machines were still firing everywhere with terrifying machine guns. The powerful bullets plowed across the ground and swept over the corpses, no matter whether they lived or died. Regardless of whether someone pretended to be dead or not, under the strafing of these weapons, the only things left were real corpses. Arriving at the collapsed building of Black Hawk Company, a lucky guy crawled out of the ruins covered in blood. He looked blankly at the unmarked machines driving towards him. The man shouted, "Who are you? Why are you attacking us?" The answer to him was a bullet fired from the cannon of one of the machines. The bullet turned the area below his abdomen into a pool of blood. He fell to the ground, not dead yet. He barely raised his pistol and pointed it at one of the machines, creating a ball of sparks on the opponent's armor. Only then did he breathe his last. The machines used flamethrowers to carry out a final sweep of the base. When the Falcon base turned into a sea of fire, these mysterious machines left and turned away. Guangling City. Yuanhang Group Building. A black car stopped in front of the group's gate. The car door opened. Luo Xianai got out of the car. He looked up and took a look at this high-rise building, which is one of the best in the underground city. Then the assistant led the way, followed by the bodyguard, and they arrived at the top floor of the building. Entering the president's office, the office is spacious and well decorated. At first glance, Luo Xianai saw the tall figure standing in front of the French window. The man turned around. He was a middle-aged man in his early 50s, with slightly grey hair on his temples, but his eyes were still sharp and bright. This man was the owner of Yuanhang Group, Huang Yuanhang. This man originally ran a shipping business. When he was young, he traveled all over the country and made a lot of money. Whether it was wealth or social status, he was on par with Luo Xianai. Later, due to the downturn in the shipping industry, he began to change his career. He suddenly became a construction tycoon. When Guangling City secretly bid for various construction projects, Huang Yuanhang won 7 projects in one go, thus obtaining the qualification to enter Guangling City. In this year's city lord election, he also has a seat, but his popularity is not as high as Xing and Luo Xianai. Seeing Luo Xianai coming, Huang Yuanhang, who was chewing a cigar, laughed and opened his arms, as if to welcome an old friend. "Boss Luo, you are finally here." Out of politeness, Luo Xianai hugged Huang Yuanhang gently and then separated. "Boss Huang, what's the matter that made you call me here so urgently?" Huang Yuanhang stretched out his big hand and motioned Luo Xianai to take a seat. Then he said, "I originally wanted to give Boss Luo a generous gift, but I didn't expect it. It went wrong. So, I have to apologize to Boss Luo in person." When Luo Xianai heard this, his eyes closed slightly. Then he stood up and said, "I suddenly remembered that I have something urgent to deal with. No, Mr. Huang, let's talk about it another day." Huang Yuanhang smiled and said, "Originally, I planned to kidnap Wei Fenghe and give it to Mr. Luo as a generous gift to celebrate your upcoming ascension to the throne of the city lord. Unexpectedly, something unexpected happened. But don't worry, Mr. Luo. I have done a good job of post-processing. I promise no one will know that this matter has something to do with us. Luo Xianai's eyes suddenly turned cold when he heard the so-called generous gift of Huang Yuanhang. He already had a bad premonition, so he said goodbye directly. He didn't want to get involved in anything, but Huang Yuanhang seemed not to hear it. He told the story directly. Kidnapping Wei Fenghua? Doing a good job of post-processing? What does this have to do with him? Luo Xianai. Huang Yuanhang did this just to drag him into the water. Luo Xianai was unhappy in his heart, but on the surface, he was still indifferent. Mr. Huang, I don't understand what you mean. Let me be clear. I didn't instruct you to kidnap Wei Fenghua, and I didn't confiscate any of your gifts. Huang Yuanhang laughed. Don't worry, Mr. Luo. I don't mean to drag you into this, but we are on the same side. I, Huang, also strongly oppose Captain D's approach. Kidnap the director of the academy. Huang will take full responsibility. It's just that people outside don't know. I always feel that we have a good relationship. If Huang's matter gets out, I'm afraid it will implicate my brother. That's why I called Mr. Luo here. Just to say hello to you first, so that you can be mentally prepared. But don't worry. There is a 99% chance that this matter will not be investigated. Huang Yuanhang paused and laughed dryly. After all, the dead will not stand up to testify against us. Luo Xianai corrected. Mr. Huang, it's you. Only you. Luo has never done anything. Your matter, I'll pretend I haven't heard of it. As for how you deal with it, Mr. Huang, you have the final say. Is there anything I can help with? Just let me know. I have something to do, so I'll take my leave. Huang Yuanhang immediately said, I'll take you there. Back home, Luo Xianai walked into the study and closed the door. Then he suddenly threw a paperweight to the ground, directly breaking a corner of the floor. The eldest son Luo Naxing happened to come in. Seeing this, he couldn't help but look at his father. Luo Xianai exhaled a foul breath, untied his tie, sat down and said, Huang Yuanhang tricked me. He briefly described what happened at Yuanhang Group just now. Luo Naxing narrowed his eyes and said, Huang Yuanhang has a very good plan. If he really kidnaps Wei Fenghua, he can use the relationship between Wei Fenghua and Dizeng. Gain an advantage in the next election. Kick both Dizeng and you, father, out of office. Now you have failed. I told you this on purpose. The purpose is to drag you down. I'm sure of it. There was a camera in his office that recorded the scene of your meeting with him. If you, father, don't help him next time, he will definitely threaten me with it. Luo Xianai snorted heavily. That's for sure. This guy is a gangster. He relies on these rogue methods to get to where he is today. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 103, Singing the Opposition. Luo Naxing took a deep breath and said, but this scoundrel cannot be underestimated. Several of the giant parasite smuggling organizations in the underground city are now run by Huang Yuanhang, and they are quite large. In addition, it is said that he secretly supports several surface bases and provides those bases with funds to research and develop small tactical mechs. He also controls a private army and has his own secret base. He also has a group of visualization masters on hand. If Guangling City had not restricted him from buying mechs, Huang Yuanhang's strength would be even more amazing. Luo Xianai stood at the window. After a while, he said, the Falcon base may have been cleared out by Huang Yuanhang. Even if the underground city intervenes in the investigation now, there will probably be no clues. Naxing, find a way to send some clues to the underground city. Remember, don't lead it directly to Huang Yuanhang. Just direct the investigation to people and things related to Huang Yuanhang. Luo Naxing nodded and said, I'll do it right away. Luo Xianai said again, I heard from Huang Yang that classmate Luo performed well in the forbidden area this time. Very likely, classmate Luo will get a special driver's license. Luo Nanxing's eyes changed slightly. So, the academy will recognize that he is qualified to keep the measure. Yes. Luo Xianai smiled and said, I want to make this matter more sensational. Let classmate Luo become more dazzling. You go tell Huang Yang and find a few teachers who are close to us on weekdays. Tell them that I hope they do one thing. Specifically asterisk. A few days later, the students finally returned to Guangling City. You have been traveling a lot today and everyone has worked hard. After entering the academy, in the car, Weni Fenghua said, there will be no class today. You should have a good rest. Class will start on time tomorrow. Dismiss. So the students got off the bus and returned to their dormitories. Luo Yan was carrying a suitcase with Chijiu's sniper rifle in it. It was a pity that he had to go to class tomorrow. Otherwise, Luo Yan planned to go to the Buyui Xian bar in the evening to see if he could find anything. Now he could only wait until the weekend to make plans. After putting the sniper rifle in the dormitory, Luo Yan took a shower and went to dinner with Zhengshan. After dinner, the two came to the logistics department. Luo Yan was going to exchange some more spark agent for cultivation. Zhengshan also wanted to exchange calming agent. As soon as they entered the logistics department, they heard the sound of the door opening. Then Shi Haoting, wearing slippers and round frame glasses, ran over. You are finally back. Student Luo, I missed you so much. Shi Haoting pushed Zhengshan away with one hand, touching and pressing Luo Yan here and there. He said as he touched. Very good, not much hurt. Then I'm relieved. Luo Yan narrowed his eyes at Shi Haoting's neck, which was so close to him. Several plans to break this neck flashed through his mind. Finally, he thought that he still needed Shi Haoting to provide spark agent and other medicines. Luo Yan convinced himself to move his eyes away from the other person's neck. Shi Haoting, who had no idea what was going on, pulled Luo Yan over and whispered, come to me when you are free in a few days. I recently developed a new drug. Don't worry, you will definitely benefit from it. 20 bottles of spark agent as a deposit. What do you think? Luo Yan thought about it and nodded. Okay, but I want the spark agent now. No problem. As if he had been prepared, Shi Haoting ran into the office in a flash, and when he came out, he stuffed a box of medicine into Luo Yan's arms. Zhengshan next to him was envious, but thinking that this was exchanged by Luo Yan for the drug test, he shook his head again. Then he went to the exchange window and exchanged some calming agent. The next day, in the college meeting room, I disagree. Instructor Huang Yang stood up and shouted loudly, there has never been a precedent of issuing a special driver's license to a first-year student. Teachers, please be rational. How long has Luo Yan been in school? No more than 3 months. Yes, he performed well in the forbidden area. He also saved our director Wei. But you can't give him a backdoor just because of this. A student who has been in school for 3 months has obtained a special driver's license. If this gets out, people will doubt the gold content of our college. Which college will issue a special driver's license to a student who has just been in school for 3 months? No, I strongly oppose it. Today, the judges of this practical test are making a final evaluation of the performance of the students in the forbidden area and calculating their awards. During this period, Weni Fenghua proposed to issue a special driver's license to Luo Yan. Ziguang Gaiyao and several other teachers expressed their approval. But at this time, Huang Yang stood up and sang a different tune. Ziguang Gaiyao, whose hair stubbornly covered his head, stood up and said, precedents are created. Who stipulated that without precedents, certificates cannot be issued? Teacher Huang, are you against issuing certificates? In my opinion, you are just selfish and can't stand people, okay? Huang Yang's eyes widened immediately. Teacher Z, what do you mean? Ziguang Gaiyao looked at the ceiling. Don't you know what I mean? At this time, a teacher with long black hair and a scar on his left eye said lightly, I also think that it is not appropriate to issue a special driver's license to first-year students who have just enrolled. Huang Yang immediately said, did you hear that, Teacher Z? I'm not the only one who opposes this. Teacher Long Xiu also said so. The teacher with long black hair and light gray eyes coughed repeatedly. He raised his left hand wearing a black glove and waved it. I'm just discussing the matter and only represent my personal opinion. Obviously, he did not want to be dragged into a team by Huang Yang. Next, another male instructor with short brown hair, sunglasses and a cold expression said, only our teachers know about Luo Yan's performance in the forbidden area. Even among the students who took the test, not all of them saw Luo Yan's performance. If the special driver's license is issued rashly, some people will inevitably be dissatisfied. In my opinion, you can give Luo Yan the certificate, but everyone must recognize his strength. In this way, our school will not be criticized. When Feng He looked at the teacher, then, Teacher Liu Guanming, what do you think should be done to make everyone recognize Luo Yan's strength? It's very simple. Liu Guanming held up his sunglasses. Fight the giant beast alone. Live broadcast the whole process. Ziguang Gaio frowned. The giant beast is not available whenever you want it, but a parasite is easier. At this time, Huang Yang laughed. Who said there is no one? There is one behind the Great Lake District. P.S. The characters in the Dragon set building are online. Claim them yourself. In addition, handsome guys and beautiful girls, please vote. Give the noobers some motivation. Chapter 104, Return to the Ruins. While the teachers on the jury were deciding whether to issue Luo Yan a special driver's license, Luo Yan was in class. This morning was still a general knowledge class. The lecturer was Xiaoxi. This young teacher took a piece of chalk and quickly wrote two big characters on the blackboard. Gixu. Luo Yan and other students all looked at the blackboard. Then Xiaoxi smiled and said, Gixu, I believe everyone is familiar with it. Jiuying means to return, referring to returning to the original place. Zhu means ruins. But these two words together refer to the end and destination of things. It is recorded in Lizi, Tangwen. To the east of the Bohe Sea, there is a huge ravine, which is actually a bottomless valley with no bottom, and its name is Gixu. The water from the 8 directions and 9 fields, the flow of the Milky Way, all flow into it, and it neither increases nor decreases. It is also said in Zhuangzi, Heaven and Earth. Zunmang was about to cross the huge ravine in the east, and happened to meet Yuan Feng on the shore of the East China Sea. Yuan Feng asked, where are you going? He said, I'm going to the Great Ravine. He said, why? He said, the Great Ravine is a thing that can never be filled, and can never be exhausted. I will swim there. It is not difficult to see from the description in the ancient book. Gixu is a bottomless hole. All the water in the world will eventually converge into this bottomless hole. But the water in Gixu does not increase or decrease in the slightest because of this. A student asked curiously, Teacher, does the water go to the center of the earth? Xiaoxi smiled and said, it's possible, but in the past, there was a popular saying. This saying holds that Gixu may be a wormhole, and the water flowing into it goes to another space. Of course, this saying is not supported by any substantial evidence. He pointed at the two words on the blackboard with his pointer. But the Gixu I'm going to talk about today is real. Remember I told you about it in the first class of the new semester. Half a century ago, an archaeological team discovered the giant beast No Zero in the polar regions. Did they dig out another world when they dug down? Lizzie nodded. The visualization techniques we are practicing now, the combat skills and mystical techniques we are learning, etc. They were all discovered in that world. Xiaoxi said happily, yes, that world is called Gixu. The classroom was silent for a moment. After a while, Li Bohan raised his hand and said, Teacher, is it named so by the experts? Xiaoxi did not answer, but projected a photo on the blackboard. The light in the photo seemed not very good. Judging from the surrounding scenes, it should be in a cave. In front of the cave, there is a stone door. The stone door feels heavy, with two stone door knockers on it, and it looks like the gate of an ancient courtyard. Just above the double stone door, there is a stone horizontal plaque. There are two words written on it. These two words seem to be hieroglyphs. The students in the classroom have not studied hieroglyphs and could not make out anything. Xiaoxi pointed at the photo with his pointer and said, the name of this world was not given by experts. It was originally called this name. These are two hieroglyphs. GUI. Zoo. As for this stone door, it is the gate to another world. Then, several other photos were projected on the blackboard. In the photos, there were people and vehicles. They were doing research in front of the stone gate. But those people and vehicles were so tiny in front of the stone gate. There was a gasp in the classroom when the first photo was taken, because there was no reference. Everyone subconsciously imagined this stone gate as an ordinary gate. At most, it was the size of a city gate. But now it seems that this stone gate is even taller and bigger than the armored door in Guangling City. It looks like it can allow mechs to walk directly in. If such a door is for people to pass through, then how tall should the person who built this stone gate be? I'm afraid he must be a giant of 80 or 90 meters. Astonishment was written all over the young faces. Luo Yan was no exception. This stone gate is really shocking. No wonder Xiaoshi said that this is the gate to another world. On the podium, Xiaoshi continued, our current exploration of Gixu can be said to be still the tip of the iceberg. Even though many countries have invested a lot of manpower and material resources here, and every moment, there are countless discoveries and new things are discovered. But even the most advanced equipment cannot detect it. How deep is Gixu? On the blackboard, the photos disappeared. A floor plan appeared. It can be seen on the floor plan that a passage is sloping downward. Above this passage, a horizontal line is drawn at a certain distance. A group of numbers are marked on those horizontal lines. Xiaoshi pointed at the picture with his pointer and said, Gixu is not straight down, but inclined, at an angle of about 45 degrees, all the way to the depths of the Earth's core. The deepest place our equipment can explore at present is 15,000 meters from the ground. 15,000 meters. Another gasp sprang out in the classroom. Gixu is 15,000 meters deep, and this is not its limit. It is the exploration limit of existing equipment. If this is just the tip of the iceberg, how big is Gixu? It should be about the same size as a planet, right? No wonder teacher Xiaoshi used the word world to describe Gixu. It is as vast and boundless as the surface world. Xiaoshi coughed twice and drew everyone's attention back. In addition to depth, the further down you go, the wider Gixu becomes. We have currently discovered a city about 5,000 meters underground. There are also large tracts of petrified primeval forests. Before that, we discovered countless villages. As for petrified forests, canyons, mountains, and lakes, there is everything. That underground world is without the sun, moon, stars, and sky. It is not much different from the surface world we live in. We have reason to believe it. Before the dinosaurs appeared, there was an underground civilization on this planet. A vast world is under this planet. Bell. The bell for the end of get out of class rang. Xiaoshi turned off the projector and smiled. Okay, that's all for today's class. Regarding Gixu, it needs to be kept strictly confidential. You must not disclose it to anyone outside the academy, not even to your closest relatives. If you violate it, you will be severely punished once discovered. Then, get out of class is over. Walking out of the classroom, Luo Yan still felt a little unreal. There is an entrance to another world under the pole. Was the construction of these underground cities inspired by Gixu? Luo Yan's thoughts were just wandering. Suddenly, he was stopped by Wei Fenghua. Excuse me for a moment, the Dean of Studies said with a serious expression. Chapter 105 Trial. Next to an artificial lake in the academy, Wei Fenghua got straight to the point and spoke directly. Originally, you performed well in this forbidden area test, so I propose to issue you a special driver's license. Luo Yan knew that there was more to this matter, so he waited quietly. Wei Fenghua continued, the special driver's license is only awarded to those students who can skillfully drive mechs, but have not yet graduated. This is a recognition of you by the academy, and also an honor. In addition to being able to keep the mecha, getting a special driver's license is also an important resume when you graduate. It is related to your ability assessment and the resources that various units and departments will allocate to you in the future. So, such an important matter is not something I can decide alone. Luo Yang nodded to show his understanding. Wei Fenghua coughed a few times and said, the teachers on our jury discussed this matter this morning. Ziguang Gaio and several other teachers think you are qualified to get a driver's license. However, teachers Huang Yang, Long Xiu, and Liu Guanming hold the opposite opinion. Finally we reached a consensus. If you want to get a special driver's license, you need to prove in front of the public that you have the ability to get this certificate. Luo Yan got to the point. How to prove it? If you agree, then next Monday, challenge a mid-level behemoth at the practice field of the Surface Exploration Corps behind the Great Lakes region. As long as you can paralyze the combat capability of the behemoth, or kill it, you will be qualified. But the whole process will be broadcast. Live in Guangling City. Every resident will be your witness. Wen Feng had coughed twice and said, before that, the school will repair the White Dragon for you free of charge. And equip it with sufficient ammunition and fuel. Originally, I wanted to fight for the right to upgrade the White Dragon for you. But I was beaten back. Even the principal thinks that, if the White Dragon is upgraded to a higher evaluation level, in that case, there is no point in the public challenge. The principal thinks that the White Dragon should maintain the level of the forbidden test to be convincing. Of course, it is always a bit unfair to let you fight a mid-level behemoth alone. So you can choose to refuse and then participate in the actual combat test in the second half of the semester. You still have a chance to get a special driver's license. By then, no one should object. Luo Yan said without thinking, I will participate in the public challenge next Monday. Wen Feng asked carefully, are you sure? Luo Yan nodded heavily. He couldn't wait that long. Okay, then I will report your decision. Wen Feng pressed his shoulder. In the past few days, practice visualization and combat skills well. In the afternoon, the school used the public network and radio to announce the results of this practical test. This practical test, first year group A, the score is the first. Luo Yan's personal credits are 3,400, in addition to the team's contribution. In the end, he received a total of 4,000 credits. As the first place, the 3 mecha masters of the first year group A received a special reward. When they have their own mechs, they will receive a behemoth core, and the academy will install a super core matrix for them for free. As for the other team members, they all received an additional reward of 200 credits. This made the members of the first year group A cheer. The second place was the second year group A, the third place was the first year group B. Lizzie killed the Guho bird and let them get 2,000 credits. Later, although they joined forces with the second year students and shared the credits equally, they finally scored 1,000 more points than the second year students. In the end, the second year group B was at the bottom. In addition, in the second year group A, Liu Ruohan and another mecha master Chending Sheng got the special driving license, thus retaining the mechas they drove. When announcing these news, the academy also announced that next Monday, Luo Yan will participate in a trial and pass the trial. Luo Yan will also get a special driver's license. At that time, the trial process will be broadcast live throughout the city to ensure fairness and justice. This news is like a heavy bomb. It has triggered various discussions in the college. In addition to announcing the news of the Forbidden Area test, the college also announced another notice. But this notice has nothing to do with students. From now on, all duties of teacher Huang Yang will be relieved. Zheng Shan looked at the news on the college's public network on the tablet and raised his head. Teacher Huang was fired? Luo Yan sat at the window and did not respond. He was not interested in Luo Beichen's mentor. In addition, he vaguely guessed the reason why Huang Yang was fired. After rescuing Wei Fenghua, although his mentor did not explain it too clearly, he mentioned that Huang Yang had met Gao Yui many times in the Falcon base. Maybe Huang Yang said something that he shouldn't have said. Just like that, time passed day by day. Although Luo Yan got 4,000 credits and 5.51 million work points in his pocket, he did not spend crazily. He had already planned to convert work points and credits. All of them were used to upgrade the mecha and practice. However, he has not yet received the mecha, so the work points cannot be used for the time being. In terms of practice resources, he just got a batch of Spark Agent from Shiheoting. The credits cannot be used for the time being. The weekend came in a blink of an eye. Luo Yan did not practice. He took the light rail train to the city. Through the navigation, he found a car dealership specializing in second-hand cars. Luo Yan spent 1,500 work points and bought a second-hand two-wheeled motorcycle. Then he found an Evernight bar in Guangling City. But because it was morning, the bar did not seem to be open for business. Luo Yan took a look from a distance and drove away on the motorcycle. During the whole day, Luo Yan drove the motorcycle around Guangling City. Using the strong memory of the breaking barrier eye, he memorized the entire transportation network of this underground city, except for some nameless roads that were too remote and did not exist in the navigation. Luo Yan was not clear. The rest, he remembered by heart. I'm afraid that Zheng Shan, who has lived in Guangling City for 3 years, is not a person who can do this. Now Luo Yan couldn't recognize the road. Finally, the holographic board above the underground city changed to the color of dusk. The whole underground city was dyed orange. Luo Yan found a restaurant to have dinner. Then he checked into a small hotel that didn't require identity registration. He took the key and went into a room that could only fit a bed. Luo Yan opened a suitcase. In addition to a rough-looking sniper rifle, there was also a set of red stand-up collar long windbreaker he bought from the store that morning, and a white mask without any pattern. Chapter 106. Neat and tidy. 10 o'clock in the evening. The nightless bar. Luo Yan, wearing a mask and a long red windbreaker with a stand-up collar, drove a motorcycle to the vicinity. He put the motorcycle in a hidden corner. After confirming that there was nothing on the motorcycle that could be connected to him, Luo Yan picked up the heavy box containing the sniper rifle and walked towards the bar. Tonight, he wanted to appear as the killer. See if there were any clues in the bar. Find the person who wanted to kill him and eliminate the trouble forever. In order to make himself look as close to the killer as possible, Luo Yan not only brought his weapons and masks, but also bought a similar coat. He also added several insoles to his shoes. He tried to make himself as close to the killer as possible in terms of height and appearance. At this moment, Luo Yan pushed open the heavy door of the bar. Immediately, a heat wave mixed with alcohol and other smells rushed in. There were quite a few customers in the bar. Judging from their clothes, most of them were low-level workers. After a busy day, they used alcohol to numb themselves here, smoking and drinking. After relaxing, they would go home and have a good sleep. Then they would repeat the same work tomorrow. The bar was quite dim, which made Luo Yan's current appearance not too noticeable. There were several young ladies who passed by him. For some reason, their faces turned pale. Then they left in a hurry. Luo Yan followed his plan and came to the front of the bar. He thought that the killer kept a card of this bar. Maybe he would be a regular customer. In this way, the bartender should know the killer. Then, he would have a chance to get clues. As a result, Luo Yan came to the bar. The bartender, who had just poured wine for other guests, turned around and saw Luo Yan now. He immediately walked over and whispered, "Mr. Jiuying, you are finally back. Your guest has been waiting for you in the card room for a long time. If you don't show up again, I'm afraid he will burn down the bar." Guest? Luo Yan narrowed his eyes slightly in the mask. Then he nodded slightly. He remained silent and looked elsewhere. He soon found a card room with a closed door. He walked over with a heavy box and opened the door. I saw a middle-aged man sitting at a round table drinking alone. Next to him, there was a man who looked like an assistant. Hearing the sound of the door opening, the middle-aged man looked up. This man had a square face, thick eyebrows and big eyes. He was Wu Tijan's father, Wu Changqing. The night Wu Changqing came to the school to cause trouble. Although Luo Yan didn't see him, he heard about it later. So Luo Yan did his homework as usual. He found Wu Changqing's photo and even his simple information. He knew that he was the younger brother of Wu Shimo, who was in the Guangling security department. Now, seeing Wu Changqing in the Buyishan bar, Luo Yan finally felt relieved. Needless to say, it must be Wu Changqing who hired the killer to assassinate him in the forbidden area. It would be easy to deal with it if we knew who hired the killer. Next, Luo Yan only had to consider how to kill Wu Changqing. Well, he had to take his wife with him. As a family, it's always better to be together. At this time, Wu Changqing had already taken the lead. He stood up suddenly and smashed the wine glass on the ground. He shouted angrily, "How dare you come back? What did you promise me at that time? You said you would make sure that Luo kid would not return to Guangling. What happened? He came back without losing a hair. You still dare to say that you are the top killer in Guangling? Bah. You are a piece of trash. A waste. Luo Yan thought about it. He didn't respond. He put the briefcase on the table. Then he opened it. He took out the sniper rifle inside. Suddenly seeing the sniper rifle, Wu Changqing stepped back a few steps. The assistant reached into his arms, as if to take out the gun. Luo Yan lowered his head, took the sniper rifle out of the briefcase, and put it on the table. He lowered his voice and said, "There was an accident." Accident? Wu Changqing's arrogance was suppressed by the rough sniper rifle. He was not as arrogant as before. He pulled his tie and asked, "What accident?" Luo Yan didn't answer, but just maintained the gun. He felt that the killer named Red Dove was wearing a mask. He was definitely not the kind of person who liked to socialize. Such people were usually taciturn. Therefore, he chose to remain silent. Wu Changqing was bored and was afraid of the sniper rifle, so he said, "I don't care. Anyway, you took my deposit. You have to get rid of that guy for me. I'll give you a week. No. 3 days. Otherwise." Wu Changqing snorted. In the end, he still didn't dare to threaten the killer in front of him. Worried that he would not be able to walk out of the card house, he made a gesture and left with his assistant. Luo Yan immediately took off his mask and windbreaker, stuffed all these things and the sniper rifle into a suitcase. Then he picked up the suitcase and left the card house. The bar was dimly lit. Luo Yan changed his clothes again. No one noticed him at all. He walked along the wall and came to the door. He saw Wu Changqing get into a car that did not match his identity. After Luo Yan remembered the appearance of the car, he waited until the car disappeared from his sight. He went straight to the motorcycle. Next, he followed the car. On the way, Wu Changqing changed to a black car under an overpass. Finally, they arrived at a villa. Luo Yan's motorcycle stopped at the intersection. He watched the black car drive into the gate of the villa from a distance. Wu Changqing's villa imitated the European style. The roof was a sloped shape. There was also a red chimney. It was very obvious. Luo Yan stared for a while and drove away. Until midnight, he used the open ghost wheel to restrain his whole body's breath and approached the Wu family villa like a ghost. He opened the braking barrier eye. The Wu family villa became a stick drawing in Luo Yan's vision. Through the lines of those things, Luo Yan saw that there were some biological grey lights in the villa. Among them, most of them were humans. There were 2 groups of grey lights that were dogs guarding the yard. At this time, someone was walking a dog along the inside of the villa. It should be the security guard of the villa. Luo Yan's sight finally fell on a room on the 2nd floor of the villa. The entire 2nd floor. In that room, there were 2 groups of biological grey light. Judging from the location, it was the master bedroom of the villa. The 2 groups of biological grey light in there were naturally Wu Changqing and his wife. Luo Yan was about to take action. But at this time, he suddenly saw that there was a basement in the villa. And in the basement, there was a group of grey light that was obviously not human, nor cat or dog. That thing was the size of a puppy, and from the shape, it was more like some kind of insect. Luo Yan's pupils dilated slightly. Giant beast parasites? Wu Changqing actually has a hobby of raising giant beast parasites? Looking at the grey light in the shape of an insect in the basement, Luo Yan quietly adjusted his action plan in his mind. Chapter 107, Night of Death. Wu Changqing didn't sleep well. He had several dreams in a row. In the dream, he saw his son Wu Tijun with blood on his face, asking himself why he didn't avenge him. Wu Changqing screamed and woke up. He gasped and looked at the electronic clock next to him. It was 1:35 in the morning. Next to him, his wife was sleeping soundly. Even his screams didn't wake her up. Wu Changqing got out of bed, walked to the side, poured a glass of water, and gulped down the water. Outside the open window, the moonlight simulated by the holographic board shone into the room, making Wu Changqing's shadow very long on the thick carpet. "If you don't kill that Luo within 3 days, I'll find someone else," Wu Changqing said in a deep voice. "Don't worry, son. I will definitely avenge you." He put down the cup and was about to go back to bed. Suddenly he saw his own shadow on the ground, on his right shoulder. Somehow, it began to move. It was as if a second head had grown on his shoulder. Wu Changqing suddenly looked towards his right shoulder. Fortunately, there was nothing there. But at this moment, in the corner of his eye, a pale human face flashed by. Wu Changqing's hair stood up all of a sudden. He turned around quickly and saw the open window. On the windowsill, there was a bloody piece of beef. Wu Changqing was stunned. Then he saw a face emerging in the shadow next to the window. It was impossible to tell whether it was a man or a woman. The eyes were narrowed, smiling. The next second, a mass of things pounced on him. Before Wu Changqing could react, the thing had already landed on his face. Wu Changqing suddenly felt a pain on his face, and something pierced into his skin. He was about to shout, but a fishy and strongly sour liquid poured into his mouth. Wu Changqing's eyes suddenly widened. He felt as if someone had stuffed a ball of fire into his mouth, and the fire was rapidly entering his body along the esophagus. Wu Changqing reached out and touched the cup. The cup fell to the ground, but did not break. The thick carpet kept the cup intact, but the remaining water inside flowed out. Wu Changqing quickly fell beside the cup. The cup reflected the moonlight, reflecting Wu Changqing's figure. Wu Changqing's body kept twitching, and after a few seconds, it stopped moving. The moonlight outside the window fell on Wu Changqing's body. If his wife Zhang Xiangsun woke up now, she would see that there was another human face on her husband's face. Unfortunately, Zhang Xiangsun slept too deeply. She didn't notice it at all. So the human face on Wu Changqing's head suddenly moved, and Zhang Xiangsun didn't notice it. The weird human face slid down from Wu Changqing's body. When it moved, it was seen. This thing looks like a mite magnified countless times, and the pattern on its back naturally interweaves a weird human face with squinting eyes and an evil smile. Giant beast parasite. Human face mite. As for Wu Changqing, his head is almost rotten. He was fed a large mouthful of biological strong acid by the human face mite. The whole face was rotten. Part of the skull was exposed. In addition, Wu Changqing's neck and chest were also rotting rapidly. It gave off a disgusting stench. It was like the smell of a lot of rotten eggs. The smell finally made Zhang Xiangsun's eyelids move. Then she whispered, "What smells so bad? Old Wu. Do you smell it? Old Wu?" Zhang Xiangsun woke up. She turned over. She didn't see her husband. She sat up in confusion. She saw Wu Changqing lying on the ground. Before she could take a closer look, Zhang Xiangsun suddenly saw that the quilt had a bulge. Then, the bulged part was moving towards her. She suddenly lifted the quilt. She saw a gloomy and strange human face. It was stuck on her thigh. Zhang Xiangsun screamed immediately. The human face mite also jumped up. The human face mite also pounced on Zhang Xiangsun's face. It blocked her mouth. The sharp legs pierced into Zhang Xiangsun's face. Zhang Xiangsun couldn't tear the human face mite off because of its barbed legs. Then, the human faced mite gave her a biological strong acid. As soon as the strong acid entered her mouth, Zhang Xiangsun's tongue was corroded. Then her entire mouth began to ulcerate. The strong acid went down her esophagus, making her feel as if she had been fed a mouthful of magma. Below the villa, a security guard on duty looked up at the second floor. "I seemed to hear the madam's cry just now." Another security guard inside smiled and said, "Isn't it normal to hear a cry? I advise you to mind your own business." Then the two security guards smiled knowingly. On the street, where the Wu family villa is located, on the second floor of an uninhabited house, Luo Yan was holding a sniper rifle and using the barrier breaking eye to monitor Wu Changqing's bedroom. At this time, a police siren suddenly sounded on the street. Several vehicles from the Land Security Bureau drove over at lightning speed and surrounded the villa. The security guards in the villa hurried out to inquire. A staff member of the local security bureau showed his ID and said, "We have received a report that you are raising giant parasites privately. This is a search warrant. We need to go in and check. Please cooperate with our work." The security guard wanted to explain. Suddenly someone shouted, "Look, the window on the second floor. It's a parasite. It's a human-faced mite." One by one, they looked. Sure enough, a human face mite crawled out of the window of the master bedroom on the second floor. Suddenly, the security guards of the local security bureau took quick action. Some set up cordons on the streets. Some went to evacuate nearby residents. Some surrounded the Wu family villa to prevent the parasites from escaping. Not long after, the parasites were shot dead. The local security bureau then investigated the villa. They found equipment for raising parasites and food for parasites in the basement of the villa. This was solid evidence. When they were about to arrest Wu Changqing, they found that the couple had both died tragically in the bedroom. The bodies of the two were highly decomposed. Almost everything from the head to the body cavity was rotten. Only the limbs were relatively intact. The next day, Luo Yan was sitting in the light rail train back to school. When the local security bureau showed up last night, he packed up and left. Before that, he sneaked into the basement and released the human-faced mites. He used the raw bones and flesh that fed the parasites to lead the human-faced mites to Wu Changqing's bedroom. In addition, the local security bureau was able to show up so timely because Luo Yan called the local security bureau's parasite reporting hotline after releasing the parasites. He had been monitoring the Wu family villa before the local security bureau's personnel arrived. In addition to monitoring Wu Changqing and his wife, this was also to ensure that the parasites would not harm innocent people. After leaving the scene, Luo Yan also destroyed everything related to Chijiu, including the newly purchased two-wheeled motorcycle, to ensure that no one would find out about him. After doing this, he felt a lot more relaxed. Next, he would focus on the trial on Monday. At this moment, Luo Yan felt his eyes itchy. He rubbed them gently. When he opened his eyes again, he was unaware. The barrier-breaking eye has been activated. But this time, in addition to the world turning into a stick figure and the people around him appearing as biological grey lights, Luo Yan also saw that above the heads of those biological grey lights, there were many colorful lines. Chapter 108, The Eye of Truth. If Luo Yan looked in the mirror at this time, he would see that around his red eyes, a little bit of silver and white quickly gathered. At the position of the pupil, a cross-shaped pattern was formed. This silver cross seemed to become a part of Luo Yan's pupil. It moved with the movement of Luo Yan's pupil. Luo Yan casually looked at a woman with colorful light on her head. When his attention was focused on the woman, the colorful light on her head would suddenly expand. Then some information appeared in the gorgeous light. Liu Yan, 36 years old, nurse. Luo Yan's heartbeat suddenly accelerated. He could actually see personal information. Luo Yan couldn't help but look around the car. He thought, could it be that the light strips on those people's heads were all their personal information? Luo Yan casually looked at another man. Zhao Kun, 42 years old, electronic engineer. Luo Yan took a breath. He was sure that his barrier-breaking eye had broken through. Just like the previous key eye transformed into the barrier-breaking eye. After absorbing the primordial stone fragment, it will take several days for the changes to occur. Luo Yan remembered the Shenzang encyclopedia he got from Wei Fenghua. It mentioned that the next stage of the breaking the barrier Dharma eye is called the Eye of True Suchness. At this stage, the abilities are insight, truth, and root. Regarding these abilities, the Shenzang encyclopedia does not describe them in detail. There are only a few words. But now combined with what he has seen, Luo Yan has a vague feeling about the ability of the Eye of True Suchness. In fact, he has also looked up the meaning of true suchness. The word true suchness comes from Buddhism and is a Buddhist term. Yoga Volume 72, page 5 says, what is true suchness? It means that the Dharma is revealed by the selfless, and the holy wisdom is practiced. It is not enough for all words and deeds to deal with things. Yin Yang Volume 6. Page 1 says, true suchness, it means that the Dharma is revealed by the selfless, and the holy wisdom is practiced, and all words and deeds do not rely on it. The 21st chapter of the miscellaneous Agama Sutra says, with the one vehicle path, purify sentient beings, get rid of sorrow and sadness, and obtain the true suchness Dharma. All Buddhist classics, or easy to understand Buddhist dictionaries, have similar explanations for true suchness. True means real, and suchness means normal. It also means that true suchness is the real entity that pervades the universe and is the root of all things. Through these explanations, combined with what he has seen now, Luo Yan believes that his eye of true suchness can firstly see through everyone's information line. Secondly, he can read the corresponding personal information, which corresponds to reality. But the root is not clear for the time being. Luo Yan thought again. In addition to simple personal information, can he see more information? So he focused on a girl on the opposite side of the car. The information line flashing with various colors above the girl's head suddenly expanded and released some information. Lin Yichen, 22 years old, front desk clerk. Luo Yang concentrated his mind and imagined himself going deep into that colorful ocean of information. After trying several times, new information really emerged. How long will it take to the next stop? The new male colleague who came yesterday was so handsome. The lady next to me must have eaten garlic for breakfast. What's wrong with the man opposite? He keeps staring at the top of my head. Hey, his eyes are red. Is he a Cuva carrier? What does a train conductor do? Why did he let a Cuva carrier get on the train? How disgusting. Luo Yan quickly closed his eyes. It was probably the first time he used the eye of truth. He was still a little uncomfortable. After just staring for a while, his eyes felt a little stinging. But he gained a lot. He could really see more information. And that seemed to be the girl's inner voice. Luo Yan thought about it. He thought that the eye of truth could directly intercept the target's brain waves, so as to interpret more information in the brain waves. If so, perhaps, the eye of truth can also see the secrets in the target's heart. That might be the application of the source. When applied to combat, then you can see through the other party's thoughts and know what the other party is going to do next. Then you can counter it in a targeted way. As for more applications, it may still need to be discovered and explored. But compared to the breaking barrier eye, it is obvious that the eye of true suchness has further deepened its use of information. In addition, the eye of true suchness maintains the ability of the previous stage. Luo Yan can still observe biological gray light, various numerical values and other information. He blinked and casually scanned the passengers in the car. When passing a young woman at the end of the car, Luo Yan saw the following information appear above her head. Chulin, 23 years old, member of the Nine Phoenix organization. Luo Yan said in his heart, Nine Phoenix organization? He remained calm. His eyes did not stay on the woman named Chulin. He looked elsewhere. But in his heart, information about the Nine Phoenix emerged. Classic of mountains and seas, Great Wilderness North Classic says, in the Great Wilderness, there is a mountain called the North Pole Cabinet. The sea water flows northward. There is a god with 9 heads, a human face, and a bird body, named Xing Feng. In simple terms, Xing Feng is a 9-headed bird with a human face, and a bird body. This reminded Luo Yan of something. After the death match with Luo Bichen, he went to Zheng Shan's house on the weekend. As a result, the giant beast parasite appeared at night. Zheng Shan's mother was kidnapped. However, the kidnapper was silenced. When he chased out, he saw a 9-headed bird logo on the motorcycle, driven by the murderer. Thinking of this, Luo Yan looked at the top of Chulin's head, as if nothing had happened. He wanted to read her brain waves. After a while, some information emerged. 100 Battles Academy is almost here. It's so unlucky that a student saw my last action. But it can't be blamed on me. Even Miss Guan found out that someone was staring at me when she retrieved the surveillance camera on the route of action later. It's so troublesome. Now I have to go to the academy to silence people. What was the name of that student? I remember Miss Guan did an investigation. I remember now. The name is Luo Yan. Basin Academy students silenced. Luo Yan lowered his head and closed his eyes. First, to let his eyes rest. Second, to think about whether to take this opportunity to kill that woman. This woman named Chulin. It turned out that she was the killer at that time. The symbol of the 9-headed bird. It was the so-called Nine Phoenix organization. He did not reveal their information to the local security bureau. But these people still refused to let him go. They actually came to the academy to silence him. Thinking of this, Luo Yan has made a decision. He cannot let this female killer go. Moreover, he must eradicate the entire Nine Phoenix. At this time, a broadcast sounded in the carriage. The train was about to arrive. Luo Yan quietly used the secret method, opening the ghost wheel to gather his breath. The Yuan Li in his body tightened layer by layer, like a spring that was constantly tightening, quietly waiting for the moment of explosion. Chapter 109 Nine Phoenixes. The train arrived at the station. After the train stopped, Luo Yan stood up like other passengers. There were many people getting off at this station. The woman named Chulin was among them. Luo Yan walked behind her in a low-key manner. The killer's instinct made her lean to one side and look around from time to time. She was very alert. At this time, a man in front seemed to step on the heel of a passenger. The two of them started arguing. There was a little chaos. The people in front instinctively wanted to stay away from the two, so they stepped back. Chulin had to move closer to Luo Yan. Luo Yan raised his head silently. The murderous intent in his red eyes was revealed without concealment. He stopped using the secret method of KIR wheel, but did not turn to KO and wheel to prevent the Yuan Li from overflowing uncontrollably and alarming the target. But as a killer, Chulin instinctively felt the change in the atmosphere. She did not look back, but squeezed into the crowd. But Luo Yan was behind her. When she realized something was wrong, it was too late. Luo Yan felt the surging of the Yuan Li in his body. He consciously guided it to his right hand, which had just finished tempering the bones. He clenched his fist. Taking advantage of the moment when the two were close to each other, he smashed it hard on Chulin's back with a very small amplitude. Chulin's eyes widened. He couldn't help but rush forward and bumped into other passengers. What's going on? Don't you watch when you walk? Don't you see there are so many people? Why are you squeezing? The passengers complained one after another. But they didn't see that Chulin's waist seemed to have lost the support of the bones. It tilted to the side. She fell weakly. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. As she fell down, she saw a figure passing by indifferently. It was a young man with slightly messy black hair and a pair of red eyes. This was the last scene Chulin saw in her life. When Luo Yan walked out of the train, there was a cry of surprise from inside. What happened to her? Look, she looks like she has no bones. She was fine just now. How could she die? Stop talking. Call someone. The train was in chaos. After leaving the station, Luo Yan did not return to the academy immediately. He called Dizeng's guards irony. A moment later, he received a call from Dizeng. Luo Yan told Dizeng about the 9 Phoenix. Dizeng was silent for a moment, then said, "Go back to school first. I will find you in the evening." Ending the call, Luo Yan put away his phone, returned to school. As soon as he entered the school, he saw the video of the forbidden area test being played on the big screen in the teaching building. In the video, Luo Yan saw his group, 3 mechs cooperating with each other to attack the Guho bird. "Hey, first year." Suddenly a rough voice sounded. Luo Yan looked back. It turned out to be the 3rd year student Hiheo. Hiheo folded his arms and stood straight. His tall and strong figure made the students passing by unconsciously take a detour. "It's too early for you to fight a mid-level monster. I advise you to give up. It's not like you don't have a chance to get the special driver's license again." After saying that, Hiheo turned around and left without waiting for Luo Yan's response. At this time, Luo Yan's heart moved. He heard Zheng Shan's voice. "Old Luo." The big man trotted over and patted Luo Yan's arm. "Where did you go yesterday?" Luo Yan didn't answer. Zheng Shan knew his temper and didn't ask any more questions. Pointing to the big screen, he said, "Look, it's our video. We worked so well together that night. It's a pity that Group B got the kill. I'm still angry when I think about it now." Zheng Shan suddenly slapped his head. "That's right." He leaned close to Luo Yan's ear and whispered, "I heard that your trial on Monday. It has been taken for gambling. Now those black gambling houses in the city are offering you a 3-to-1 odds. Even so, there are still many people betting on you to win." Luo Yan showed a puzzled expression. Zheng Shan smiled and said, "I don't know who planned this live broadcast. Anyway, in the past few days, some of the videos of our forbidden area tests have been taken to the city for publicity and played in a loop. Especially the clips about you. There are so many. This makes many people confident in you. Also, because the odds are high. Think about it, 1 to 3. The odds of the giant beast are only 1.5. Luo Yan said indifferently, "Aren't they afraid that I will lose?" Zheng Shan snorted and said, "I know a gambler." He said, "He only bets on one thing when he bets. Odds. He only bets on high odds and plays with his heartbeat." Then Zheng Shan said seriously, "Don't think about betting on yourself to win. Gambling is prohibited in the college. No matter whether it is a teacher or a student. Once discovered, they will be expelled immediately." Luo Yang couldn't help but look disappointed. Zheng Shan's mouth twitched. You really want to bet on yourself? Then he said, let's go. It's almost noon. Let's eat. Arrived at the cafeteria. Luo Yan hadn't gotten his meal yet. He was stopped by someone. A third-year student looked around, then took out a cell phone and said, Student Luo Yan, answer the phone. It will benefit you. Luo Yan glanced at him and walked around. The student's face suddenly darkened. But he didn't dare to get angry. If he hadn't taken someone's benefit, he really didn't want to deal with a bad guy like Luo Yan. The student picked up the phone. Mr. Bei, he won't listen. Well, okay. He seemed to have received other instructions. He took 2 steps forward. Student Luo Yan, Mr. Bei said that, if you are willing to answer the phone, he will give you 10,000 work points immediately. Luo Yan looked at the menu on the window and said expressionlessly, 100,000. He didn't know who wanted to talk to him. But he was not in the mood now. So he made a random offer, hoping that the other party would give up. Unexpectedly, after the student reported, he actually said, okay. Then he handed the phone over. Luo Yan didn't take it. He stared at the third-year student. When he was scared, Luo Yan said, pay the money first. After a moment, as expected, there was a deposit of 100,000 work points in his personal account. This made Luo Yan curious. Who on earth was willing to spend 100,000 just to talk to him on the phone? Luo Yan was a trustworthy person. Since the money was transferred in, he took the call. Hello, he said. A laugh suddenly rang out from the phone. Oh, classmate Luo. It's really not easy to talk to you. Let's make it short. My name is Bei Tao, and I'm a decorator. Of course, this is my side job. My main job, I'm not afraid to tell you. It's a gambling house. That's right, your odds for this public trial are 1 to 3, and I decided it. So, here, I have a small request. Classmate Luo Yan, can you please lose this trial? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 110 Common Interests. Lose the game. Hearing the request from the man who called himself Bei Tao, Luo Yan narrowed his eyes slightly. He was very curious. How could the other party have the confidence to ask him to lose the game? At this time, Bei Tao continued, of course, I won't let you work in vain. As long as you agree, I will give you a deposit of 200,000 yuan immediately. After the matter is done, I will give you another 800,000 yuan. A total of 1 million. 1 million. It is not a small amount, but it is not difficult to see. Many people bet on him this time. The bet is definitely more than 1 million. Otherwise, Bei Tao would not go to such great lengths. On the phone, Bei Tao continued, Student Luo, if you think this number is not ideal, we can talk about it again. How about we meet tonight? Luo Yan did not respond. He put down the phone and threw it back to the third-year student. The third-year student was stunned. He saw that Luo Yan had turned around and started ordering food. He had no intention of paying attention to Bei Tao at all. Hello, Luo Gangsu, what did you say? On the phone, Bei Tao still didn't know. The third-year student could only report to Bei Tao truthfully. Bei Tao was silent for a moment, then sneered and hung up the phone. The third-year student glanced at Luo Yan. He left. From beginning to end, Luo Yan didn't say a word. He only agreed to answer the phone. He didn't promise to reply anything. As for Bei Tao's suggestions, he didn't intend to listen to them at all. He was determined to get the Mecha White Dragon. No matter who it was, don't try to stop him. After getting the food, Luo Yan just sat down. Yang Lixi came. His 2 followers pushed Zheng Shan away, then sat opposite Luo Yan. Yang Lixi smiled. Student Luo, you must play well on Monday. I bought 1 million on you. Luo Yan looked at him unexpectedly. Didn't they say that students are not allowed to participate in betting? Yang Lixi seemed to know what he was thinking. He whispered, of course it wasn't placed in my name. I used an anonymous account. It can't be traced back to me. How about it, Mr. Luo? Would you like to bet a little for yourself? Luo Yan raised his head and looked at him seriously. He wondered what this guy wanted from him. Why did he try every means to give him all kinds of benefits? Yang Lixi made Luo Yan uncomfortable, especially when the other party's eyes began to wander around those fatal parts of his body. Yang Lixi knew that if he didn't show a little more sincerity, it would be difficult to gain people's trust. So he clenched his fist and coughed. Student Luo and we didn't know each other until we fought. I have limited talent in training and driving mechs. I can't achieve anything big, but I think I still have a vision for investment. Student Luo, from enrollment to practical test. Excellent performance. Especially the forbidden area test not long ago. It really opened my eyes. So I decided to invest in you. Student Luo. I wanted to tell you before, when I was at the Falcon base, I invested in a pharmaceutical raw material company outside the school. It specializes in collecting medicinal raw materials in the forbidden area. I also asked people and used connections, and basically I can get the collection license and cooperation contract from Guangling City. But now, the conditions are still a little short. A company that wants to enter the forbidden area to collect medicine needs at least one mecha. I really can't get a mecha. So I think, if you, Student Luo, can get a special driver's license, can we consider long-term cooperation? Of course, it's not too late to talk about the details after you get your driver's license. After hearing what Yang Lixi said, Luo Yan believed him. To be exact, Luo Yang believed in common interests more. This was more trustworthy than some nice words. Moreover, he was also interested in the company invested by Yang Lixi. Collecting herbs in the forbidden area, wouldn't it be a chance to enter the Misty Canyon and recycle those Jiuying flowers? Thinking of this, Luo Yan nodded. Then he said softly, please place a bet for me. Yang Lixi immediately said, no problem. How much? Luo Yan said lightly, same as you. I'll transfer the money to you. Yang Lixi waved his hand. No, I'll place a bet for you first. It's just 1 million, no big deal. So the matter was settled. In the evening, Zeng came. The two met at the training hall. The exploration team leader, with a stern face, said straight to the point, Xing Feng is a dangerous organization. They are engaged in intelligence trafficking and assassination business. They have intelligence networks and relationship networks in the underground city and the city surface. The leader of the Xing Feng organization has always been unknown. The security department has been investigating them for more than 2 years and still does not know who their leader is. From some clues found, Xing Feng may have multiple leaders, which is consistent with the meaning of the nine-headed bird. And the staff of the security department's investigation section believe that the leader and even members of Xing Feng are all women. Luo Yan thought of the female killer he met in the carriage. He nodded. Then he said, Captain D, do you know Bei Tao? Zeng looked over immediately. Yes. On the surface, this man runs a decoration company called Yuan Tao, and his business includes decoration, renovation, and house maintenance. In fact, he controls the entire Guangling underground casino. All kinds of events that happen in the underground city can be used as gambling projects. Has he contacted you? Luo Yan did not hide it. He came to me at noon. He wants me to lose the trial on Monday. He will give me 1 million as a reward. Zeng raised his lips. We suspect that Bei Tao has a relationship with a big shot in the conservative faction. If he doesn't get support, he can't control the entire underground casino. He came to you not just for gambling. This should be the intention of a big shot. Like I said before, whether you like it or not, you have been involved in the struggle between the two factions. Luo Yang nodded gently. He had guessed before. Behind the Bei Tao incident, there is another meaning. On the surface, he wants to lose the trial. In fact, he is still coming to attack Zeng. Luo Yang couldn't help but ask, besides Luo Shan, are there any other big names in the conservative faction? Zeng counted on his fingers and said, besides Luo Shan, there is also the current city lord Liu Haoting, Xing Feng, the chief of staff of Arcor, construction magnate Wang Yuanhang, security minister Wu Shimo, and Liupo, a tycoon who runs a security company and a train company, and privately makes a living by releasing goods. Basically, the conservatives can be called big names, the above mentioned ones. But among them, City Lord Liu Haoteng and Lao Zeng of Arkor belong to the neutral faction in the conservative faction. They just don't agree with the ideas and suggestions I put forward, but they don't get involved in the struggle between the two factions. They are a grey area and a buffer space. Chapter 111, GD Battlefield. In the training hall, Zeng stood at the window, looking at the soft moonlight projected by the holographic board of the underground city. You don't have to worry about Xing Feng's affairs. Before coming here, I have already informed the security department. In the next period of time, the investigation department of the security department should keep biting them. They won't have the leisure to target you. The corps commander paused and said, as for Beitao, I will have people protect you in secret. But on the surface, you can only rely on yourself. Luo Yan raised his head, looked at the corps commander, and said thoughtfully, do you want to find out who is the financial backer behind Beitao? Zeng smiled, but did not respond directly. He stood up. He pressed Luo Yan's shoulder and said, focus on the trial on Monday. That's the top priority. When you get the special driving license, I will arrange some tasks for you to get familiar with the life of Mecha Master as soon as possible. I look forward to entering the GD battlefield with you one day. I hope that day will come soon. Luo Yan's heart moved. GD battlefield? In addition to the forbidden area, there is another battlefield? Luo Yan did not ask. He believed that, when he should know, Zeng would tell him. Also on this night, in a dimly lit room, Beitao, who was over 40 years old, sat at a table. There were lunch boxes on the table. They were all food just ordered from the restaurant. Beitao was sweating profusely while eating. Suddenly, the mobile phone next to him rang. He wiped his mouth with a tissue. Answered the call. Brother. Beitao called. A voice in the phone hummed, and then asked, how is it going? Beitao snorted and said, that little bastard didn't say a word from beginning to end. I paid him 100,000 work points to let him listen to my phone call. He really just listened. Brother, why don't we find Xing Feng to kill him so that he can't take the trial on Monday? There was silence on the other end of the phone for a while. Then he said, Atao, you have been with me for almost 20 years. You are not young anymore. You are already 40 years old, and you are still so impulsive. Beitao shrugged. The person on the phone continued, I want him to lose the trial. Is it for that little bit of money? My purpose? Forget it. You won't understand, even if I tell you. How about this? Find someone to mess with him. Don't let him have it too easy. This is logical. If you don't do anything, it will make Zeng suspicious. Beitao's eyes flashed with anger. Brother, just messing with him. Isn't it too easy for that kid? The man on the phone sneered. Idiot. Do you believe it? Zeng may have sent someone to protect him now. With the few people you have, you can only do some trivial tricks. If you really want to touch him, you have to use my people. If you really do that, Zeng can follow the clues and figure out our relationship. Beitao's forehead was immediately covered with cold sweat. Don't underestimate Zeng. The man on the phone said, if he was so easy to bring down, Luo Xianai wouldn't have such a headache. Do as I say, remember, don't do unnecessary things. Beitao quickly agreed. The next day was Sunday. Luo Yan was practicing as usual. He had already started tempering the bones of his other arm. He had already finished 10 pieces so far, a total of 40 pieces. This speed was not slow, but it would take some time to temper all 206 bones. In addition to practicing, Luo Yan also took out a video and watched it over and over again. This was the battle record of the giant beast he was going to challenge tomorrow. Codename, pronounced the same as Chun, Ru level, intermediate level type, caterpillar features, coercion, air lingering, wood control, and running fast. The overall appearance of this giant beast is like an elk magnified countless times. It has 4 long horns like an antelope. In addition, it has 4 limbs like human arms, and the hind limbs are horse legs. This allows it to run fast with both hands and feet, and it can also stand up and attack with both hands. The hair and horns of this giant beast are also wrapped with flowering vines. It can control these vines and even the plants in the surrounding environment. This is due to its ability to control wood. In addition, it can release coercion, which can make the mecha masters who are not determined lose their fighting spirit and even consciousness. It can also stay in the air for a short time and change its trajectory in mid-air, making it hard to defend against. Finally, its speed is very fast, almost the same as that of Teoti. After all, both have the characteristics of running fast. This is a giant beast used for training by the Surface Exploration Corps, and it is kept in the mecha training ground behind the Great Lakes. It seems that, because of the captivity, in the practice video provided by Wei Fenghua, the giant beast's desire to attack is not very strong. So, compared with the wild giant beasts that Luo Yan has encountered, this Zero always gives people a sense of reluctance when fighting. Monday came in a blink of an eye. In the morning, the college sent a car to take Luo Yan to the surface. The school bus was driving on the road. Luo Yan saw that the large and small screens of the buildings in the city were already playing considerable information about today's trial. In particular, the battle video of the giant beast Zero was repeatedly played on the screen. Luo Yan frowned. He didn't quite understand. It was just a trial. Why was there so much hype about it? Sitting next to Luo Yan, Wei Fenghua coughed twice and said with a smile, "You just came to the underground city, so you don't understand. Although there is a holographic board in the underground city that calculates in real time and projects images simulating the scenery on the ground 24 hours a day, but it is still underground, located 300 meters underground. Living in such a place without sunlight for a long time, even if you can supplement the trace element of the human body through drugs." But here Wei Fenghua patted his chest gently. This place cannot be adjusted with drugs. Living in the underground city for a long time, people will feel depressed. Emotions cannot be released. Over time, it will have an adverse effect on the production of the underground city and even on all aspects. So every once in a while, the underground city will organize similar activities. It is used to adjust the atmosphere in the city, although people can't go to the surface. But when they see you fighting on the surface, they will empathize with you. They will put themselves in your role, cheer for you, and feel sad for you, thereby producing a subtle chemical reaction, which is conducive to stabilizing their mental state. Luo Yan remained silent. He really didn't know. It turns out that staying underground for too long will cause so many problems. At this moment, the roar of an engine sounded outside. Luo Yan looked out and saw several obviously modified off-road vehicles whizzing up from behind and approaching nearby. At this time, in an off-road vehicle, there was a man with his hair dyed in various colors. He stuck out his tongue with a tongue-studded Luo Yan, raised his middle finger with a skull tattoo, and then threw a smoke bottle at him. Chapter 112 Luo Yan's response. "Go to hell, you little brat. You haven't even grown all your hair yet. Why are you trying to learn how to drive a mecha? Die here. Go to hell." In the SUV, there were 4 or 5 people wearing strange clothes, some with dyed hair and some with tattoos. You could tell at a glance that they were not decent people. They shouted at Luo Yan. In addition to the one who threw the smoke bottle, there were also people who took out pistols and machetes. They threatened Luo Yan. Luo Yan stretched out his hand. He caught the smoke bottle. He threw it back. He threw it into the SUV. The car was immediately filled with smoke. Wei Fenghua coughed twice and said, "We have a guard car. Let the security drive them away." "Don't." Whoosh, the wind suddenly sounded. Before Wei Fenghua finished speaking, Luo Yan had already jumped out of the car window. Looking down from above, he fell towards the SUV. In midair, Luo Yan looked indifferent. He raised the splitter star. It came out of its sheath. Choke. With the sound of the sword, the long sword shattered. As Luo Yan swept across, thousands of meteors burst out and whizzed away. In the off-road vehicle, the driver just raised his head and saw the stars falling all over the sky. He suddenly felt a chill on his back and shouted, "Wait, we are actually..." Several soft sounds. The men in the off-road vehicle saw it. The driver's eyes widened. Blood arrows kept splashing on his face and neck. Suddenly, their faces turned green. They shouted, "Don't kill me, I'm blind, I apologize. Help." Amid the shouts, blood arrows sprayed into the air. Some of these men's heads fell off. Some of their necks were broken. In just one breath, they all died in the car. Luo Yan fell into the car. He stepped on the steering wheel with one foot to prevent the off-road vehicle from losing control. At the same time, he reassembled the splitting star and put the sword back into the sheath. He did not look at the corpses in the car. He did not guess the purpose of these people. He did not think about whether they were instructed by someone. In short, all those who dared to provoke. He only had one response. Kill. He didn't think about the overall situation or the long term. He only knew that only blood and corpses could suppress the thoughts of some people. If the other party didn't stop, it meant that they had not killed enough. Seal. Black rope. Luo Yan returned to the school's special car. He didn't touch a drop of blood, but sat down with murderous intent. Chen's fish stall. Beitao sat at a table and was eating iced sashimi. Picking up the thin sashimi and dipping it in a little soy sauce. It was the ultimate delicacy. In Guangling City, not everyone can eat fish. Not everyone can eat sashimi. Beitao can. He also likes it. So every now and then, he would visit this fish stall. The owner of the fish stall and his family huddled in the corner trembling, not daring to make a sound. At this time, a man with dyed golden hair came over and said a few words in Beitao's ear. Beitao's eyes widened. Dead. All dead. After getting a positive reply, Beitao put down his chopsticks and closed his eyes. After sitting for 2 seconds, he suddenly flipped the table and stood up. He glanced at the fish stall owner. Today's fish is not fresh. It smells earthy. Several men walked over. Mr. Bay, it won't happen next time. It will definitely be fresh next time. Ah. Don't hit my dad. Screams, screams, and crying. They all rang together. Beitao took out his card and swiped 10,000 work points to the fish stall account. He left in a car. Also this morning, Junheo Club. In the VIP room, Luo Xianai smiled, and his eyes swept across the people on the sofa. They are business partners and supporters of Luo Xianai. In the next city lord election, he will rely on these people to canvass votes for him in various districts. At this time, the eldest son Luo Nangxing was greeting these VIPs. Luo Xianai was very satisfied with this eldest son. He was just like him. Know when to advance and retreat, know how to be patient, and have vision. Luo Xianai is releasing the power in his hands little by little through similar social activities. Let his son take over little by little. Just then, there were footsteps. Then there was laughter. Good morning, everyone. Luo Xianai's smile froze on his face immediately, because it was Huang Yuanhang's voice. Moreover, he did not invite Huang Yuanhang to this party this morning. This scoundrel came uninvited. Luo Xianai quickly adjusted himself, and when he turned around, he was already smiling. What wine brought Mr. Huang here? Huang Yuanhang said as he walked, holding a cigar in his mouth. Of course it was an east wind. Luo Xianai waved his hand and called Luo Nangxing over. Nangxing, this is Mr. Huang. Luo Nangxing said respectfully, hello, Mr. Huang. Good. Huang Yuanhang looked Luo Nangxing up and down and said with emotion, brother Luo, your son is really a handsome man. It's a pity that Huang has no daughter, otherwise we can be closer relatives. Luo Xianai narrowed his eyes slightly and then said, Nangxing is not so lucky. Huang Yuanhang laughed and said, this morning, there will be an open trial. Brother Luo, have you placed a bet? Luo Xianai shook his head and said, Luo doesn't like this. Huang Yuanhang laughed, then you will miss a lot of fun. What about you, nephew? Luo Nangxing smiled and said, I did bet a little bit. Oh, which side did you bet on? It won't be the Mecha Master? Huang Yuanhang laughed and said, don't say that Uncle Huang didn't remind you. Today, the Behemoth will definitely win. Luo Xianai said, oh, why is Mr. Huang so sure? Huang Yuanhang whispered in Luo Xianai's ear, because I bribed the giant beast breeder to feed the giant beast several tons of stimulants today. Hearing this, Luo Xianai's expression was slightly stern. Huang Yuanhang bribed the breeder to feed the giant beast, which was a small matter. But it is not difficult to see from this incident. The surface exploration core was actually infiltrated by this Huang. I don't know how far his hand can reach. At this time, Someone shouted. It's about to start. Look, the mecha has entered the field. On a projection wall in the hall, a silver-white mecha was striding into the fighting field under the sunlight. The silver-white fuselage was shining. In the light, it was like a god of war descending to the mortal world. Majestic. It was the White Dragon. At this time, in the core fighting field behind the Great Lakes, Luo Yan was in the driver's cab of the White Dragon, watching a camouflaged mountain in the distance slowly open up, revealing the passage behind. In the huge passage, several trucks with amazing horsepower drove out. Together they dragged a cage. The middle-level beast Zero was in the cage. The beast was just as described. Deer body, 4 horns, human hands, horse hooves. It curled up. It seemed to be sleeping. There were syringes like pillars inserted into its body. Some of the syringes were filled with tranquilizers. Some were drugs used to wake up the beast. Chapter 113. The trial begins. Facing a powerful enemy, Luo Yan stood still. This was due to the experience and confidence accumulated from battles, as well as his own character. Moreover, Luo Yan had watched the video of Zero over and over again for dozens of times. He had already rehearsed today's battle countless times in his mind. Although Zero was a mid-level behemoth, it had no intention of fighting. It could be seen from the video that when it fought with the core mecha, it was always reluctant and perfunctory. For such a behemoth, Luo Yan was confident that it could kill it. As the behemoth entered the field, the tranquilizers on the behemoth stopped being injected, and awakening potions were injected instead. In those huge syringes, some were injected with unrecorded drugs. At this time, several trucks disconnected from the animal cages and returned to the mountain facilities. The animal cages also began to open. In the cages, Zero slowly opened his eyes. Its pupils gradually burned with blue flames. The vines wrapped around the 4 horns and the fur gradually spread out and spread into the air. On those plants, flowers bloomed one after another. Yellow, red, blue, purple, colorful. Suddenly, Zero stood up completely and made a deer cry. The vines on its body suddenly rose up like a python, spreading in all directions, like a peacock spreading its tail. Luo Yan didn't waste any words. He raised his rifle and fired at the giant beast's head. With the help of the computer, this shot directly hit the giant beast's eyebrows, causing the big deer's head to shake, and a blood arrow jumped out. Ding ding ding. Zero took several steps back. Then, as Luo Yan expected, it used its hands and feet to rush over quickly. It is worthy of being a giant beast with the sprinting feature. When Zero was at full speed, it left a blurry afterimage, making it difficult to capture. But Luo Yan was prepared. When Zero rushed up, he controlled the mecha to move sideways and then swept the muzzle of the gun as if predicting, towards the position where the mecha had been before, shooting into the air. The next second, Zero pounced on the position where the mecha had been before. The bullet hit it. Unfortunately, it was blocked by the vines on its body. The vines on Zero were very resilient. Even if they were broken by the bullets, they also played a great role in buffering. The bullet hit Zero's fur again, and the impact was much smaller, only making its muscles dented. But it didn't even tear the skin. Instead of pounce on the opponent, it fired a few shots. Dao turned his head to look at the mecha, and his eyes suddenly ignited green flames. The atmosphere suddenly became solemn. Luo Yan felt a stuffiness in his chest. It was as if he was pressed by a mountain. This terrible sense of oppression made him almost kneel down. Pressure. Zero activated its ability to mentally oppress its opponent. After suppressing the opponent, Zero leaned forward, and the vines on its body suddenly swept towards the mecha. The speed was so fast that it wove a green waterfall in the air. At this time, a layer of rock-like texture appeared on the outer armor of the White Dragon. Bright yellow light rose, and 1,000 mountains condensed around the mecha. The mecha had a hint of the majestic meaning of high mountains. Luo Yan activated viewing mountains and seas, and with the profound meaning of this technique, he resisted the oppression from the spirit. Facing the menacing green vines, he did not resist, but controlled the mecha, and turned around and ran, running in a snake shape. In the video he watched before, through reference objects, Luo Yan came to a conclusion. If he only controlled the vines on his body, Zero could only make the vines on his body about 1,000 meters away from his body. The diameter of the entire fighting field is 2000 meters. In other words, the vines on Zeru's body can only attack things within the radius of the fighting field at most. Luo Yan directly let the white dragon run 1200 meters away. Sure enough, the waterfall formed by the vines could not touch Luo Yan's mecha at all, so it shrank back. Luo Yan took the opportunity to turn around, raised his rifle, and with the help of the computer, fired at the head of the giant beast. Zeru's vines could not reach the white dragon, but the range of the Shenwei rifle easily covered this distance. Bang, bang, bang. The powerful gunshots rang out on the field. The bullets broke through the air at high speed and rubbed against the air violently. The surface heated up and turned red and left a series of red tracks on the fighting field. They kept hitting the head of the giant beast. After being hit by 4 or 5 shots, the retracted vines wove a wall in front of Zeru. This wall continued to accumulate and thicken until the bullets of the Shenwei rifle could hardly penetrate it. Asterisk 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 in Basin Academy, the battle situation in the fighting field was being broadcast live on the big screen in the teaching building. Hiheo, a third-year student, clasped his hands over his chest. He looked up at the big screen, his face silent. His partner Jiuying said, "I've seen the battle video of Zeru. Unless equipped with weapons like flamethrowers, otherwise, whether it's rifles or missiles, it's difficult to smash its defense from a long distance. Even if you use armor-piercing shells, the effect is limited. Otherwise you have to use beam weapons, but this kind of weapon is obviously not something that a primary machine can equip." Hiheo said at this time, "It's not difficult at all. Just rush up and do it. Don't look at that thing that took the initiative to charge just now. But in my opinion, this thing is not good at close combat. Its active attack is actually an illusion to confuse the opponent and create pressure. Let the opponent take the initiative to distance." Jiuying covered her mouth and chuckled. "Your intuition is really terrible. Unfortunately, it works well except in battle. At other times, you are always a step behind." She nodded gently. "You are right. To kill Zeru, you can only risk being harassed or entangled by vines. Close combat. In addition." Jiuying's pure and bright eyes closed slightly. "The state and reaction of the giant beast seemed to be a little different from what I saw in the video." Asterisk 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 Junheo Club, VIP room. Looking at the projection wall, White Dragon seems to have no way to deal with the giant beast. Some people sighed. Some shook their heads. Some people complained. Huang Yuanhang laughed and took the glass of red wine brought by the waiter. Looking at Luo Nangsing, he said, "Nephew, I hope you bet on the giant beast to win." Luo Nangsing did not respond directly, but smiled slightly and continued to look at the projection wall. Luo Xianai picked up a cigar sprayed with perfume. He laughed. "The battle has just begun. Who will win the game for dear? It's hard to say yet. What do you think, Mr. Huang?" Huang Yuanhang smiled without changing his smile, squinting his eyes to hide the coldness that flashed in his eyes. He said loudly, "Mr. Luo is right, very right." At this moment, someone exclaimed, "Look, the driver is crazy. Is he going to run up and die?" It turned out, in the fighting field, the mecha White Dragon maintained fire suppression while rushing towards the giant beast. Luo Nangsing closed his eyes slightly. He wants to increase the penetration of the bullet by shortening the distance. Chapter 114, Strong Killing Intent. On the battlefield, when the White Dragon was shooting with a rifle, Luo Yan opened the Eye of Truth. A silver cross appeared in the bright red eyes when it locked onto the giant beast Zeru. Just like when Luo Yan observed the passengers in the carriage that day, a ray of light also appeared above the biological grey light of the giant beast. However, the light of the giant beast was not colorful. Instead, it was a mixture of deep red in the darkness. When Luo Yan stared at the black and red light, the light suddenly expanded and turned into a black and red light curtain that made people feel uncomfortable. On this light curtain, the deep red slowly flowed, just like blood splashed on a dark wall. Under Luo Yan's gaze, some information emerged. Pressure, rapid movement, control of wood, and stagnation in the air. These are the characteristics of the giant beast Zeru. The Eye of Truth can directly see the abilities of the giant beast. Although Luo Yan already knew these abilities. But that's because Zeru has archive records in the database of the giant beast strategy house. If you encounter a giant beast that is not recorded, then Luo Yan's ability can play a huge role. He doesn't have to observe and verify repeatedly like others to learn about the ability of the giant beast. With the help of the Eye of True Suchness, he will directly see the ability of the giant beast, so as to understand it faster and make responses. Luo Yan continued to stare at the black and red light curtain above the giant beast. Try to obtain the brainwave information of the giant beast. About 1 or 2 seconds later, Luo Yan really saw some information. Kill all human race blood evolution, Wei Fenghe once said in the Misty Canyon. The giant beasts above the intermediate level already have spiritual intelligence. Having spiritual intelligence means that they have thoughts and ideas. Now try it. It's true. It's just that the thoughts and ideas of the giant beast are relatively rough. The information expressed is also very simple. But it is this simplicity. It shocked Luo Yan's heart. The killing intent of the giant beast towards humans was so direct and strong. The word kill. Between each stroke, it seemed as if blood was spreading and flowing. The bloody smell emanated from that simple word. In addition, human race. Why not human race? Wait. Luo Yan's pupils slightly expanded. Human race. Human. Why do giant beasts have the concept of human? Can they distinguish between humans and themselves? Can they distinguish between humans and other animals? The killing intent they exude is only directed at humans, not all creatures. Luo Yan felt a chill on his back. The giant beast's understanding of human is far more bizarre than Wang Lei's mecha controlled by Gifa. His sight fell back on the giant beast. He saw that the blood of the big deer had hardly decreased. Suddenly, in the grey light of the creature, Luo Yan suddenly saw a ball of green flame emerge and outline the outline of an elk. The elk formed by the gathering of green flames seemed to be roaring at the white dragon. Then it jumped flexibly, flashed a few times, and disappeared in the biological grey light. Luo Yan's expression did not change much, but his intuition told him that the elk formed by green flames was definitely not simple. This was the first time he saw something else in the biological grey light. Is this a special thing that belongs to Zero? Or is it some ability of the Eye of True Suchness? Luo Yan didn't know. In this case, he had to find out the truth himself. He had watched the battle video of Zero and knew that using a weapon like the Shenwei rifle would not have much effect on it. At most, it could only harass it. As for the rest, let alone killing the big deer, it would be difficult to even reduce its blood. Luo Yan leaned forward suddenly. The white dragon immediately ran. The heavy steps shook the earth. The mecha ran towards the giant beast. As the distance got closer, the bullets that were originally blocked by the wooden wall. It was able to penetrate the wooden wall at first, but the effect was still not great. This was also within Luo Yan's expectations. While running, Luo Yan used his energy to impact the acupoints. When he got close to the wooden wall, it suddenly exploded. Boom. The energy rose and rushed upwards to the Kuyuan wheel. After using the secret method, the performance of the mecha was comprehensively improved. Under Luo Yan's control, in an instant, the white dragon first moved horizontally and then pounced on the giant beast hiding behind the wooden wall. Zero immediately removed the wooden wall. Those vines danced like pythons and quickly wrapped around the white dragon. Suddenly, they stopped in midair, as if they had hit an invisible barrier. Number 5 Mystic Technique, Empty Wall. It turned out that when he moved, Luo Yan had stopped shooting. According to the plan, he formed a seal and released the Mystic Technique to block the harassment of the vines. Then, the chainsword popped out. The mecha took a step forward, and the ground was cracked into pieces. A circle of stone waves splashed up. The white dragon raised the chainsword and was about to chop it down. Zero looked at Luo Yan, his eyes burning with green fire. The invisible and heavy pressure fell on Luo Yan again. Pressure. But this time Luo Yan was mentally prepared. And in the state of Kuyuan wheel, the Yuanli burst out and broke Zero's pressure into pieces. At the same time, the chainsword turned into a flash of lightning, with a majestic momentum, as if it was going to split the sky and the earth, and slashed at the giant beast. Combat skill, Thunder. At this moment, the silver cross in Luo Yan's eyes suddenly reflected a little green. In the depths of Zero's biological grey light, the elk formed by green flames jumped out again. It was like a fish hiding in the river. Occasionally, it would emerge above the river, and as this elk emerged, the giant beast's eyes shot out madness, and it ignored the falling chainsword. The big head was raised, 4 horns as sharp as guns. They pointed at the chest of the white dragon. Luo Yan remained calm. The thunder fell to the bottom. The chainsword cut into the neck of the giant beast. It broke out from under the neck. The giant beast spurted out a large wave of blood, which splashed on the outer armor of the white dragon. The small half of the silver-white fuselage was painted dark red, but because of the angle, the sword did not cut deep enough. It failed to cut off the whole head of the long horns of the giant beast hit the chest of the white dragon. Luo Yan felt a sharp pain in his chest. He groaned. The mecha was lifted off the ground. The sharp horn tore the layer of energy covering the outer armor, and then scraped the mecha, creating a series of sparks. The white dragon fell to the ground. Luo Yan immediately rolled over. Then he climbed up. But at this moment, vines entangled the hands and neck of the white dragon, pulling the 2 arms of the mecha to the sides, and tightening the neck of the white dragon. Suddenly, in the cab, Luo Yan felt as if his 2 arms were about to be torn off. At the same time, his neck was tightened, making it difficult to breathe. Chapter 115, Root Destruction. Basin Academy. Oops. Student Luo Yan is in danger. Control wood. Zeru's ability to control wood appears. He immediately controlled Student Luo Yan's mecha. The host is really worried about Student Luo Yan. I wonder if he can resolve this crisis. The host's voice rang out on the big screen, making the students watching the live broadcast extremely nervous. 2nd grade. Yang Liji grabbed the railing and almost lay outside the fence, as if he wanted to sit on the mecha to play for him. Student Luo, come on. Don't lose. I bet 10 million on you. If you lose, I will lose everything. Next to him, Zhang Heo and Fatty, the 2 followers, couldn't help but look at their boss. Boss, you bet 1 million without telling them? Yang Lixi gritted his teeth and said, I didn't see that classmate Luo also bet, so I thought he should be sure. So later, I added another 9 million. That's all my pocket money. If it's gone, I don't have to open my herb picking company anymore. The 2 followers looked at each other. At this time, on the big screen, the host shouted again. Everyone, look. Zeru stood up. It stood up. According to previous records, Zeru stood up, which means it's going to attack with all its strength. Yang Lixi hurriedly looked at the big screen. On the screen, the giant beast stood up. On the ground arena, in the control room of White Dragon, Luo Yan saw the giant beast standing up through the panoramic window. The huge body stood upright like a human, exuding an amazing sense of oppression. In addition, the vines on its body were flying like pythons and tentacles. It added a third of fierceness to the giant beast. Zeru raised his 2 human arms, and the vines around him twisted themselves one by one, forming long arms. The next second, the giant beast's arms made a fist-shaking motion. The arms formed by the vines were like machine guns. One by one, fists fell on the head and chest of the mecha like a rainstorm. Bang 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 bang. The body of the white dragon kept shaking. The yuanli light on the surface of the outer armor kept flashing. Luo Yan in the cockpit felt like he was being beaten up. Countless fists fell on him every second. It was not because he practiced viewing mountains and seas, and it was already the 4th level. Luo Yan's body was extremely tough. Otherwise, he suspected that he would have lost consciousness long ago. Can't lose. Luo Yan gritted his teeth. Fierce light flashed in his eyes. Even though Zeru's performance was completely beyond expectations and completely different from the battle video, Luo Yan didn't intend to stop there. While bearing the attack, he clenched his hands violently. The mecha moved synchronously, holding the vines that were pulling its arms. Then, the Yuan force burst out again. Yuan wheel. In Luo Yan's perception, his Yuan force was consumed quickly, in exchange for a huge force. This allowed him to close his arms and pull the vines of Zeru over. Luo Yan's eyes were blood red, like 2 balls of red flames burning. He roared. His arms pulled in the same direction. The vines that bound the mecha's hands swung, and then the giant beast moved to one side involuntarily. Hey, what is Luo Yan going to do? He's spinning. The mecha is spinning. I understand. He uses the vines tied to his hands to affect the giant beast in turn. Amid the host's excited shouts. In the fighting arena, White Dragon is spinning. The speed is from slow to fast. Pulling the vines, the giant beast Zero can no longer spin on its own. I don't know how many times it has turned. The mecha suddenly raised its arms. With the help of inertia. With a whoosh, the beast was thrown into the air. Next, the white dragon squatted and jumped up. The mecha lifted off the ground, higher than the beast. With both arms swinging, the beast was swung around, and then slammed hard to the ground. Boom. Like a small meteorite hitting the ground, the entire fighting field was stirred up by a circle of earth and rock waves. The violent vibration and shock wave spread out with a roar. Even the large lake in the distance, the lake's surface also spread out circles of ripples due to the vibration, stirring up waves. In the air, in the cab, the cross in Luo Yan's eyes penetrated the smoke and dust below, and locked onto the biological grey light of Zero. The mecha fell, and the chainsword pointed at the head of the beast. Luo Yan wanted to pierce the head of the big deer this time. But at this moment, he suddenly saw that in the biological grey light below, the elk formed by green flames in Zero's body emerged from the grey light again. An idea popped up in Luo Yan's mind. What would happen if he attacked the little elk? In an instant, the mecha smashed down with surging energy. When the nearly 2,000 tons of fuselage collided with the ground, the already sunken ground collapsed again. The giant beast Zero was bounced up by the recoil force, making itself face the mecha and the chainsword. And this time, the green elk in Zero's body was extremely clear. Right in front of Luo Yan. Break. The chainsword whistled and stabbed. With a silver light, like lightning and thunder. In an instant, it pierced the green elk. The elk suddenly froze and suddenly exploded. It turned into countless information and symbols, shooting in all directions. Then in Luo Yan's field of vision, those information finally combined into 4 big words. Root destruction. Luo Yan was at a loss. The next second, the vines tied to the mecha began to wither, fade, and rot quickly. But in the blink of an eye, starting from the vines, to the whole body of the giant beast, it actually broke apart bit by bit, turned into flying fluff, and disappeared in mid-air. Only some important organs, skeletons, horns, claws and other few things remained. The whole fighting field was silent. The host couldn't say a word for a long time. This was not only because Luo Yan killed the giant beast, but also because the way the giant beast died was too strange and weird. Usually after the giant beast dies, the body will decompose like ordinary creatures. But this takes a long time. It takes at least 3 months. The higher the level of the giant beast, the slower it decomposes. Even after a year, the overlord level giant beast still has most of its body left. But now this Zero has decomposed into fluff in the blink of an eye. It's really unprecedented. After a while, the host came to his senses and grabbed the microphone and shouted, "Win. Student Luo Yan won. A comeback. A desperate counterattack. Too exciting. This is the most thrilling and exciting battle I have ever seen. In my opinion, Student Luo Yan is definitely an excellent mecha master. We in Guangling City definitely need excellent talents like Student Luo Yan. Student Luo Yan. Pass the trial." A moment later, in Guangling City, whistles, shouts, and screams rang out. Especially those who bet on Luo Yan. They were even more excited like crazy. Chapter 116 The attention of all. Junheo Club. An unfinished cigar fell to the ground. Huang Yuanhang looked at the big screen. He was stunned. The previous second, the white dragon mecha was still suppressed. The next moment, the giant beast turned into flying catkins. This change came too fast. Too sudden. Huang Yuanhang was still immersed in the joy of Luo Yan's defeat. Suddenly, the situation took a turn. He was a little overwhelmed. Luo Xianai bent down with a faint smile on his face. He picked up the cigar that Huang Yuanhang dropped and said, "Mr. Huang, money is external to the body. If you lose, you lose. Don't take it to heart." Huang Yuanhang only reacted at this time. He laughed. "It's just a few hundred or 10 million. I won't take it to heart. It's this classmate Luo. I'm really surprised." Of course, he didn't feel sorry for the 10 million he bet on the giant beast. But he missed a good opportunity to strike Dzeng. Huang Yuanhang casually looked around, looked at Luo Nangsing, and changed the subject. My nephew is lucky this time, and he bet on the right thing. I wonder how much my nephew bet? Luo Nangxing looked modest, a little bit, just a little bit. Huang Yuanhang casually said, how much is a little bit? Luo Nangxing smiled, and spread out 5 fingers. 5 million. Huang Yuanhang was a little surprised. Luo Nangxing chuckled, 50 million. All my belongings. All bets. Huang Yuanhang was stunned. Then he coughed dryly, young man, really, really? Haha. When we entered the underground city, the assets were exchanged for work points at a ratio of 1:1 point. My nephew's belongings. Not a small amount. Luo Nangxing smiled and said, before entering the underground city, I made a little money in the stock market. I'm sorry to make Uncle Huang laugh. Huang Yuanhang murmured, when I was your age, I didn't have this ability. He stood up, looking at Luo Xian'ai. I'm getting more and more jealous of Mr. Luo. Leaving this sentence, which was not sure whether it was true or false, or half true and half false, Huang Yuanhang left. Luo Xian'ai looked at the giant beast skeleton on the screen. He chuckled. Huang Yuanhang is also lucky. The giant beast died in such a way. The ingredients of the medicine could not be extracted afterwards. No one knew he had tampered with it. It's a bit of a pity. Luo Xian'ai frowned again and glanced at Dazzy. Have you ever seen a giant beast die in such a way? Luo Nangxing shook his head honestly. Strange. What kind of combat skill is this? Ask Mr. Gaolin tonight. Luo Xian'ai turned around again and greeted his partners. Asterisk 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 in the school bus. Luo Yan was still thinking about the root destruction. That green elk, could it be the root of the giant beast? Luo Yan had looked up relevant information. He knew that root also refers to origin. It also refers to the foundation and basis. In other words, the elk condensed by green flames. It is the foundation of the existence of the giant beast Zero. If the foundation is destroyed, it will be enough to cause the giant beast to collapse and annihilate. Then, can the higher level giant beasts also see their roots? If their roots are destroyed, will they also collapse like Zero? If the answer is yes, then the ability of our true suchness to see the roots of living things is too terrifying. Voice of the I can see the grey light of life emitted by living things. Breaking the barrier I can obtain more detailed information. Our true suchness can glimpse the origin of all things. What's next? Unfortunately, the record in the Shenzhen encyclopedia only goes up to our true suchness. There is no further record. You pass the trial. At the latest tomorrow, the special driving license will be issued. At that time, you can consider upgrading White Dragon. Wen Fenghua's voice brought Luo Yan back to his senses. Luo Yan looked at his mentor. Wen Fenghua coughed twice and smiled. Tomorrow you will go to see teacher Ziguang Gaiao. He will teach you how to upgrade the mecha. You ranked first in the forbidden area test before. Therefore, the academy will install the super core matrix for you for free. Except for this part. For other upgrades, you need to do it according to your ability. Luo Yan nodded. At this time, the academy arrived. The school bus stopped. A huge crowd gathered around. Luo Yan is here. Everyone look. I'm now doing a live broadcast for everyone in the academy. Like, follow and leave a message. In front, you are blocking my camera. Move your head. Wow, classmate Luo is so handsome. Look at his eyes. They are red like a rabbit. A little cute. Luo Yan, let's make an appointment tonight. I'm a senior sister. My dormitory is. Classmate Luo, have you considered changing your instructor? Of course, I'm not saying that Director Wei is not good, but Director Wei is in poor health. I'm different. As long as you need it, I can teach you one-on-one 24 hours a day. The door of the school bus opened. A huge sound wave bombarded Luo Yan's ears. He didn't expect that a trial would make the teachers and students of the academy so enthusiastic. This made him frown. He didn't like being noticed. He didn't like being the focus of everyone. Feeling irritated, he unconsciously opened the Eye of Truth and wanted to find a gap to get out. Luo Yan looked around. In his eyes, a series of human-shaped biological grey lights were conspicuous. Above those grey lights, there were colorful information lines. The human information lines were colorful, completely different from the black and red light full of oppression of the behemoth. At this moment, Luo Yan discovered that in some biological grey lights, there emerged little people of different colors, but very small. Some of those little people wore helmets and armor, like ancient warriors. Some lay lazily, waving a paper fan. Some ran non-stop in sportswear. Some kept changing their clothes. This. Luo Yan narrowed his eyes slightly. Are these all the routes? While Luo Yan was looking at those routes, there were several people in the crowd who were at a high level of visualization. At the same time, they all felt extremely dangerous, as if they were being stared at by a ferocious beast and could be killed at any time. This was like a bucket of cold water poured down on them. They calmed down a lot and instinctively retreated and shrank to the back of the crowd. This made a gap in the dense crowd. Luo Yan put his hands in his pockets to prevent himself from pinching off the white necks that kept shaking in front of him. So handsome. So cool. No, I'm going to be fascinated by him. Some bold female students even whistled at Luo Yan. Unfortunately, Luo Yan didn't even look at them. He got out of the crowd and walked away. In the evening, in the school cafeteria, Luo Yan came wearing a mask. Although he was still recognized by many students, he was not harassed at all. He just sat down. His mobile phone rang. There were 2 million work points added to his personal account. P.S. The book is still in its new edition period and needs support. Please vote for me. You're welcome. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 117 Upgrade Direction. Looking at the text message, Luo Yan knew that this was the money he won from his bet. His odds were 3 to 1. After deducting the principal of 1 million, he earned 2 million. Adding the money in the original account, Luo Yan now has 7.51 million. This money should be enough to upgrade the White Dragon. Thinking of this, Luo Yan's mouth corners slightly raised. At this time, some voices came into his ears. How funny, he even wore a mask, thinking he was a big star. So rare. It's just killing a raised giant beast. I heard from the teacher that the giant beast has long lost its previous ferocity and its fighting power is very poor. If I were to take over, I could also kill it. This grader is lucky. He has only been in school for 3 months and has already obtained a special driver's license. Just wait, he will fall. Obviously, not everyone is happy to see Luo Yan pass the trial. Many people don't want the people around them to live well because they can't get it themselves. Whispering, full of malice, pairs of eyes, one after another, they hid in the dark corners, staring at Luo Yan like poisonous snakes. Luo Yan was about to respond. A voice rang out. Who is it? If you have the guts, stand up and speak openly. What's the point of hiding in the corner and making sarcastic remarks? Luo Yan looked up. It was Yang Lixi. This guy's face was red, like a proud rooster, pointing around and shouting arrogantly. I tell you, student Luo is my brother. If you offend him, you will offend me, Yang Lixi. If you offend me, Yang Lixi, you will offend the director of the construction bureau, my dad. Luo Yan lowered his head again after raising it. He considered whether to pack it up and eat it in the dormitory. Yang Lixi continued to speak shamelessly. If you offend my dad, you will offend the entire construction bureau. Then you'd better take it easy. The house and street you live in now, I'm afraid that they will have to be renovated every few days in the future. It will be rebuilt. When the time comes, I'll see where you live. He left these words. Yang Lixi went straight to Luo Yan. Student Luo, I really love you. He was overjoyed. Luo Yan successfully passed the test today. Yang Lixi earned 20 million. This made him more determined. Hold on to Luo Yan's thighs. Not only can you eat meat in the future, but you can also sleep on a mountain of gold. Luo Yan lightly glanced at Yang Lixi's neck. He ignored him. He went to eat. Yang Lixi waved his hand and asked the 2 followers to get him food. He followed Luo Yan. Student Luo, you can keep the mecha now. Then what do you think about our cooperation? Luo Yan sat down and said indifferently, 70% to 30%. I'll take 70% and you'll take 30%. Yang Lixi was stunned for a moment, then smiled bitterly and said, "Student Luo, this is a bit cruel. If I can't eat the meat, I have to drink a sip of the soup. Besides, I'm the boss of the company, and I have a lot to deal with, and I have to pay a deposit. How about 60% to 40%? I'll take 60% and you'll take 40%? Luo Yan didn't answer and ate the meat and rice. 50% to 50%. Yang Lixi spread out 5 fingers. No more. If more, I really can't eat. Luo Yan raised his head. Okay. This was within his acceptable range. He had just opened his mouth so high. It was just to make the last condition more favorable to himself. At this time, Zhang Heo and the fat man came over. Luo Yan frowned. Yang Lixi immediately stood up and called the 2 followers to eat in another corner. The world was finally quiet. On the second day, Luo Yan really got the special driver's license. It's called a certificate, but it's actually a card. With this card, Luo Yan can get a lot of benefits. For example, he can get a discount when exchanging training materials in the academy. For example, with this card, he can apply for an interest-free loan of 1 million from Guangling City. For example, starting today, Luo Yan can get the 3rd level treatment. He will get 8,000 work points every month, and he will also be allocated a house and equipped with transportation. Of course, with benefits, there will be obligations. One of them is that you must not refuse the tasks assigned by the Surface Exploration Corps. In addition, when Guangling City encounters a giant beast attack, you need to be on standby at the attack point as a backup driver, so that you can attack and meet the enemy at any time. These 2 are the most important obligations. If you don't fulfill any of them, your certificate will be confiscated. All benefits will be cancelled, and you will never be hired again. Put the certificate away. Weni Fenghua patted Luo Yan's arm. Come with me, let's go to the mecha upgrade warehouse. The mecha upgrade warehouse is next to the mecha parking warehouse. In the huge warehouse that is nearly 100 meters high, there is now mecha parked. However, this is a model machine. Some students are practicing with this model machine. They are learning to install new parts on the mecha, replace the outer armor, adjust the structure, embed the matrix, etc. A teacher is standing on the air bridge, instructing the students in real time. That teacher is Ziguang Iao. After receiving the notification from the ground students, he took the elevator to leave the air bridge. He met Wei Fenghua and Luo Yan in the office. Teacher Z, Luo Yan will be in your hands. Wei Fenghua said hello and left. Ziguang Iao, who was bald but stubbornly covered it with a few strands of hair, said with a smile on his face, "Student Luo, you can install a set of supercore matrix for free. You already have a giant beast core in your name. In addition to the forbidden area test, you can currently use 2 cores. But I suggest you install the basic matrix first. Even if you add 1 more core of the same type, the improvement to the matrix is actually not that big. We have calculated that, if we want to significantly improve the performance of the matrix, the number of core nodes is basically a multiple of 3. That is, when the matrix is equipped with 3, 6, or 9 cores of the same type, there will be a significant improvement." Luo Yan nodded, indicated that he would follow Ziguang Iao's advice. Ziguang Iao nodded happily, thinking that Luo Yan was a scholar who can be taught, and asked again, "Then what giant beast core do you plan to install?" Luo Yan thought for a while and said, "I hope to improve the defensive performance of the mecha. When upgrading the outer armor, this aspect is also given priority consideration. Secondly, it is in terms of power and strength." Ziguang Iao was a little surprised. When most mecha masters upgrade their bodies, they will give priority to attack power. After all, attack is the best defense. However, considering that Luo Yan was practicing observing mountains and seas, Ziguang Iao had some understanding. But in fact, he didn't know. Luo Yan's consideration was that he could see the route and destroy the route. In other words, he had strong means to threaten the giant beast. So he was not short of attack power, but he needed a strong function to withstand the attack of the giant beast before destroying the route. Therefore, in the current upgrade direction, he would give priority to thick blood and heavy armor. Chapter 118 Upgrade Plan. Are you pursuing defense? Ziguangao nodded, not belittling or despising Luo Yan for his eccentricity. Then, for the core of the hypercore matrix, let's use the spinning turtle. The spinning turtle has the characteristics of thick armor, submerged soil, water resistance, and poisonous miasma. Even if the first characteristic of the hypercore matrix is not thick armor, it is not a loss to get the characteristics of other giant beasts. Then there is the upgrade of the outer armor. Since you are pursuing high defense, the armor made of the shell of the spinning turtle is the most suitable. In addition, the strength, rigidity and sealing of the spinning turtle armor are all excellent. After replacing the outer armor, your body can move and fight in deep water. If the hypercore matrix obtains the characteristic of water resistance, then your body can even go to the trench. Ziguangao took out a tablet computer and used the upgrade template on it to simulate the upgrade. In addition, since the armor has been added, the weight of the mecha is bound to increase. And, your secondary requirement is to pursue the kinetic energy and strength of the mecha, so the energy furnace and engine must also need to be replaced, otherwise they will not be able to meet the needs. By the way, what is your budget? Luo Yan thought for a while and said, in terms of work points, I can use 7 million. In terms of credits, I can invest 3,000 points. Ziguangao, who had thinning hair, was stunned when he heard this, and then laughed. That's easy. Wait a minute. He picked up the tablet and started typing. While tapping, he said to himself, replace the energy furnace with Dragon Heart? Well, no, we can go a step further and replace it with Mad Dragon Heart Maximum. This energy furnace has stable output and huge power, and can be used all the way to the God Guard level. As for the engine, well, use the White Aurora Enhanced Edition. With this set, it can also be used to the God Guard level. Weapons. The power has been increased, and it would be too shabby not to replace some weapon accessories. The Shenwei rifle can continue to be used as a regular configuration, but it would be worthy of the new energy furnace to configure it with a main gun. Let me see. This is it. Hyperion Heavy Mortar, which can launch long-range ballistic missiles. Although it has limited effect on high-level behemoths, it can injure and cripple low and medium-level behemoths with just 2 or 3 shots. It doesn't cost much, and the cost performance is acceptable. For cold weapons, let's replace it with the heavy-duty Podgen. This is a longsword made from the horn of a sea, with first-class armor-piercing performance. With this set, it's more than 7 million, plus the credits. Just barely. Fortunately, the hypercore matrix is free, but it's still not enough. By the way, Ziguangao looked at Luo Yan. You still have a giant beast core in the exploration core. Can you sell it? Luo Yan nodded without hesitation. Yes. Ziguangao slapped his thigh. That's no problem. He handed the tablet to Luo Yan. Take a look. This is the upgrade plan I designed for you. Configure the spinning turtle core and matrix. Equipped with the Mad Dragon Heart Maximum Energy Furnace and a set of White Aurora Enhanced Edition engines. Replace all the outer armor with spinning turtle armor, add a Hyperion Heavy Mortar, and replace the original chainsword with a heavy-duty Breaking Army one-handed sword. The core and matrix are free. Others, the whole set will cost a lot. But you are willing to sell the core of the exploration core. In this case, in addition to the 7 million work points, you only need to deduct 1,800 credits. Luo Yan took a look. Although he felt sorry for the money, but he still agreed and said, please ask the teacher to upgrade for me, and the work points and credits will be deducted from my account. Ziguangao stood up. Okay, that's it. After the upgrade, your body will be an advanced machine, and the next upgrade will be a divine guard. But I have to remind you that the higher the level of the mecha, the more expensive the maintenance and consumption costs will be, so you have to be mentally prepared. If there is no way to make money, just get sponsorship. There should be a lot of people who want to sponsor you, and they should come to your door in the next 2 days. Luo Yan did not respond, but asked instead, when can the upgrade be completed? Ziguangao laughed and said, the energy furnace, and so on only need to be replaced and installed. No big problem. The main thing is to replace the outer armor. All in all, the upgrade and debugging will take at least 10 days. I will notify you after the upgrade is completed. Luo Yan stood up and bowed seriously. Thank you for your trouble, teacher. After leaving the mecha upgrade warehouse, Luo Yan's mouth slowly rose. Finally. He finally has a mecha of his own. Moreover, after 10 days or so, it can be upgraded to an advanced machine. It directly skips the intermediate stage. It's exciting to think about it. But then, I thought about maintenance and various consumption. Luo Yan felt that the money was too wasteful. If I had known that the upgrade would cost so much money, I should have snatched a few more mechas in the forbidden area. Now there is no such opportunity. I can only hope for Yang Lekei's medicinal material collection company. In the afternoon, Luo Yan had just finished training and walked out of the training hall when he was stopped by Wen Fenghua. Wen Fenghua coughed twice and handed a bunch of invitation letters and business cards to Luo Yan. These are some companies or individuals in the city who need to use mechas for various purposes. But they don't have the authority to purchase mechas, so they can only sponsor students who have mechas, but are of average financial conditions in this way. If you agree to sponsor, then part of the cost of the mechas will be borne by them while you are in school. After you graduate, you need to give priority to serving these companies and individuals. Of course, there is a time limit. In short, they can solve some problems that exist in the early stages of Mecha Masters. You can decide whether to accept the sponsorship based on your own situation. Luo Yan nodded. Although he didn't intend to accept the sponsorship, he still took the things over. Wen Fenghua asked Luo Yan about his training progress again, and then left. Guangling City. Wu Changqing's home. A few days have passed. However, the death of Wu Changqing and his wife is still under investigation. Wu Changqing's brother, Security Minister Wu Shimo, believes that this matter is not that simple. He ordered the local security bureau in the area where the Wu family is located to conduct a thorough investigation. For this reason, the investigators of the local security bureau have basically lived in Wu's house for several days. In the evening, several investigators were still working hard in Wu's house. Suddenly, a car from the security department arrived at the gate of Wu's house. The door opened. A man got out. He was a man with messy hair like waterweed, red eyes, and a cold gaze. He was wearing a robe full of holes, and there seemed to be many bottles and jars under the robe. As he walked, there was a constant clanging sound. Chapter 119. Wherever you go, you will leave traces. If they hadn't seen the man coming out of the security department's car, several security guards from the underground security bureau would have driven him away. The guy was dressed in rags. He looked like a homeless person on the surface. His eyes were bloodshot, and he was obviously infected with red poison. He didn't fit in with the underground environment. Who are you? A security guard wanted to ask for his identity, but the man had already squeezed him aside and walked into the villa. Hey, you can't go in like this. Several security guards tried to stop him. Someone behind him said, he can. This is Section Chief Xing Feng. He's the head of the Special Operations section of our security department. He was also ordered by Minister Wu to investigate the death of Wu Changqing and his wife. A man who looked like an assistant came up. While showing his ID, he said, from now on, this matter is the responsibility of our security department. Several security guards looked at each other. They didn't dare to stop him. The assistant caught up with the man, named Xing Feng, and whispered, these good-for-nothings in the local security bureau can't even find any useful clues after several days of investigation. It's still up to you, Section Chief Xing, to do it yourself. The security guards heard this and showed displeasure, but they didn't dare to speak out, let alone protest. After all, he was a big shot. Although they had never heard of the Special Operations Department in the Security Department, Xing Feng was serious and came to the basement in silence. Several investigators wanted to stop him when they saw his face, but they were all sent away by the assistant. As soon as Xing Feng came in, he took a look and then said, what did you find? Several investigators reported one after another, but none of them could be called clues. An investigator whispered, this matter may not be as complicated as Minister Wu thinks. Suddenly, Xing Feng's cold red eyes looked at him. The investigator's heart accelerated. Then the man said gloomily, since Minister Wu believes that this accident may be man-made, then we should treat it as man-made, as murder. Assuming this is murder, then the parasite is the murder weapon. You shouldn't have killed the parasite at the time and destroyed the body. Stupid. You are helping the murderer destroy the murder weapon. Several investigators looked at each other. None of them said a word. But they didn't agree in their hearts. In that situation at the time, if they didn't kill the parasite, would they have to catch it alive? Even if that thing was really a murder weapon, do you still expect to figure out who the murderer is from a bug? Xing Feng ignored them. With his hands behind his back, he walked around the basement. If I were the murderer, I use parasites to kill people for me. How can I make the parasites accurately lock onto the target? Training? Impossible. This is a parasite raised in the deceased's home. Then, the only way is to set up a channel to ensure that the parasite can reach the exact location he wants. The deceased's bedroom. Xing Feng narrowed his eyes. Food. Have you investigated the food of the parasites? The murderer may use food as bait to lure the parasites to the deceased's bedroom. Several investigators shook their heads. They had never thought of investigating this aspect. Xing Feng waved his hand. Go check it out right away. Then, he came to the ground. Looking around. Using parasites to kill people is a really good idea, but if you kill someone, there must be a motive. If it's a random killing, the murderer can't have made so many arrangements. From the perspective of most random killings, such incidents are impulsive, and the murderer usually attacks suddenly. Without preparation or cover-up, there must be countless clues left. But if it's a deliberate killing, then the murderer will definitely be watching in secret to make sure that Wu Changqing and his wife are killed by parasites. In other words, he needs a place where he can observe Wu Changqing and his wife. There. Xing Feng immediately pointed to a house. That was where Luo Yan hid that day. A moment later, Xing Feng came to a room. He stood at the window. He could see the bedroom of Wu Changqing and his wife from here. Xing Feng wiped the window frame. There was dust on his fingertips. He wiped it on another window. Thick dust accumulated on his fingers. The thickness of the dust on the two windows is different. Sure enough, Xing Feng said softly, everywhere you go, you will leave traces. Minister Wu's feeling is right. The death of Wu Changqing and his wife was not an accident. It was murder. He pointed at the assistant. Go. Notify Weasel and ask him to collect all of Wu Changqing's communication records, bank account transaction records, and who he has met and where he has been in the past 6 months. Find them all for me. The assistant agreed quickly. Xing Feng looked at the Wu family villa and whispered, hide. Hide quickly, little mouse. But I will find you. Asterisk 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 that night. Basin Academy. After having dinner with Zheng Shan, Luo Yan and his partner walked out of the restaurant. They were stopped by someone. It turned out to be Liu Ruohan. Tonight, she was wearing a lavender long skirt. She was thin and beautiful. Although she was wearing a skirt, she did not give people a feeling of weakness. Of course, people who can get a special driver's license have nothing to do with weakness. Luo Yan narrowed his eyes slightly, thinking, what is she going to do? He had the same idea, and Yang Lixi has been in such a good mood recently. He just made 20 million through Luo Yan. Now he feels a little light when he walks. Just after walking out of the restaurant, he saw his favorite goddess blocking Luo Yan's way. Yang Lixi was stunned at first. Then countless thoughts came to his mind. What is she going to do? Goddess. No. My goddess. Are you going to confess to classmate Luo? So everything written in the book is true. Women are more likely to fall in love with the opposite sex who once defeated them. This is due to the worship of the strong. No. Do I have to ask classmate Luo to say something to her when they quarrel in the future? In this way, the goddess will be in a good mood and will pay attention to me. Next to him, Yang Lixi has 2 followers. Zhang Heo whispered to the fat man, have you noticed? Every time when classmate Liu and classmate Luo get together, the boss's expression will be very rich. Look at him. His expression, I can imagine a big drama in my mind. At this time, Liu Ruohan's voice rang. Classmate Luo, are you free? Luo Yan walked around her and left. Women are troublesome. Pretty women are even more troublesome. A young, pretty, and rich woman is simply a disaster. Luo Yan doesn't want to get into trouble. Unless Liu Ruohan wants to give him money. Seeing Luo Yan said nothing, he took a detour. Yang Like seemed to have caught a life-saving straw when he fell into the water. He thought with gratitude, Luo classmate, you are so loyal. As long as you ignore my goddess, you are my half-brother. PS, who's the extra? Please claim it also. Tickets. Give me tickets please. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.